Hey now, welcome to a Wednesday afternoon edition of 580 Sports Talk. I am Brendan Dworzinski, flying solo in studio with you high up on Huntoon Hill this afternoon. Shortened show today. We are done at 5 o'clock. That is right, 5 o'clock finish time for us today because we have K-State men's basketball from the Big 12 tournament coming up today. Cats trying a last gasp effort to make it into the NCAA tournament. They will take on the Texas Longhorns coming up today. You'll be able to hear pregame, postgame, halftime, and the game itself right here on your home for Wildcat Sports in Northeast Kansas, 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. So we've got a jam-packed 3 hours for you coming up on the show today. Don't worry, though, it will not just be yours truly for the show today. I will be joined later on in the show, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, by Tim Fitzgerald, who is always on with us every single Wednesday. He will be stopping by to hang out with us today to talk all things Cats, including some whispers, some rumors. What if the Louisville Cardinals, who now suddenly, with a ton of NIL money, a ton of money to spend in general, a basketball heritage, now a head coaching opening, what if they called Manhattan, Kansas and said, Jerome Tang, are you interested in coming to Louisville, Kentucky? We'll talk to Fitz about that coming up a little bit later on in the show. Plus, we will be joined 2:25 today by Dan Lucero. He is going to join us from the Big 12 tournament at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. 3:25, Spencer Dupuis is going to jump on with us. So at some point or the other, we're going to hear from everyone today. Plus, Dan is going to hop on the show coming up at 4:25 today as well for What Is Wrong With You. He promised us a good story, so we're looking forward to that. We'll hear from Dan, Spencer, Dan, 2:25, 3:25, 4:25 coming up on the show today. In addition to the guys joining us from Kansas City, we're going to talk plenty of Chiefs football, plenty of NFL football. We are precisely 52 minutes away from the start of the new league year. So it officially becomes 2024 for the NFL coming up at 3 o'clock Central Time today. That is also when contracts can become official for free agent signings, or at least guys who are signing new deals with new teams. So the likes of, let's say, Xavier McKinney in Green Bay, Kirk Cousins in Atlanta, Russell Wilson. Well, Russell Wilson was a cut. He's a little bit different. He's already officially signed. But you understand what I'm saying. Chris Jones, he's already officially signed. Same with Drew Tranquill. But guys, and we'll talk about Drew Tranquill in a minute here, but guys who are signing new contracts with new teams, they can officially have those deals done coming up at 3 o'clock today. So 51 minutes from right now. We'll talk about the latest with the Chiefs. Drew Tranquill had his I'm back press conference today, broke a little news that has since become official. Patrick Mahomes restructuring his deal. Apparently the Chiefs also, they are indeed in the market for a veteran wide receiver. Some actual reporting from a high-profile NFL insider who said, yeah, they were trying to trade for Deontay Johnson. Why that didn't work out, we'll get to all that coming up here in just a minute. Also, we will get to some other news from around the NFL. The Chargers making moves today to save a bunch of cap space. Some other guys from another AFC West rival hitting the market. And let me tell you, when I'm interested in a former Las Vegas Raider, I am really interested for this Chiefs team in a former Las Vegas Raider. So we'll get to that coming up a little bit later on. We'll preview KU versus Cincinnati and K-State versus Texas coming up tonight. I have a joke here on the YouTube stream from Christopher that BYU just hit another three-pointer during the introduction. Yeah, they went nuts. I believe it was 14 of 30, if I'm not mistaken, from three-point range as they beat UCF by 14 points on their way to the quarterfinal round of the Big 12 tournament. And we'll get some other updates from Dan and Spencer from Kansas City today. Don't forget, you can join us on the show today, either on the Top City Metal Supply text line, that number 785-272-9429, or you can find us on YouTube as well. Head to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk, and that is where you'll be able to find the video stream of the show. Also streaming live today, both on Twitter and on Facebook as well. The Facebook page is called WIBW News, 580 Sports Talk on both YouTube and Twitter. Also, a reminder that from construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, but just the metal cut to the exact size you need. At Top City Metal Supply, sponsoring our text line here on 580 Sports Talk. Would, again, love to hear what you have to say on the show today, either on the text line or the YouTube comments. But we are going to start today with the Kansas City Chiefs and the latest on the Chiefs. The biggest news for now, Patrick Mahomes has restructured his contract. That'll save the Chiefs $21.6 million against the salary cap. This is I originally thought this was a fairly aggressive move by the Chiefs to make sure they've got plenty of cap space here. But in all reality, this team with L'Jarius Sneed still on the franchise tag is just about $1 million under the cap. They've barely any more money to sign draft picks coming up in a month and a half, to make any other additions that they might need for just filling out the roster. You make this move, you're especially cap compliant now. That gives you now about $22+ million in space, almost $23 million in space, in fact, to go out and do whatever you want with. So you can go out and sign a guy like Mike Pennel, who is coming back on a one-year deal. Love that. He's not going to end up making a ton. I haven't seen the final numbers on a Mike Pennel contract yet. Two-time Super Bowl champion with the Chiefs, though. Drew Tranquill actually broke that news today, made a comment during his Zoom conference call with reporters about Mike Pennel also coming back. And whoa, hello. Is that breaking news? Well, yes, indeed it is. The Chiefs then made that official as well. I love that. I think Mike Pennel is an awesome player, and he's bounced around the league a bit. Played in 2 Super Bowls previously with the Chiefs, including winning one in 2019. Came back, was a practice squad guy this year, elevated, had a really strong game in Super Bowl 58. Love seeing him come back for another year. He's been a really nice piece for the Chiefs a couple of different times now. You don't see many mercenary defensive tackles in the NFL, but I am happy that he has chosen to come and provide his services for the Chiefs a couple of times. Love that he is coming back. If you're going to get the band back together, you might as well get back the pieces who made the biggest contributions for you on the biggest stage. Mike Pennel in the Super Bowl, Drew Tranquill, frankly, throughout the entirety of this past season, including in Super Bowl 58. Love those moves for the Chiefs. I know we already knew the Tranquill news from a couple weeks ago, or a few days ago anyway, but still, he's officially in. Mike Pennel officially back in. That's great. So when you restructure this deal for Patrick Mahomes, you're opening up more room, more opportunities to do things like this. Here's another approach, though. Here's another thing you could take into consideration with the Patrick Mahomes restructure. $21.6 million, okay? That's what's being saved against the cap. Do you remember what the cap hit with the franchise tag is for L'Jarius Sneed? Is that something that you remember? What if this restructure for Patrick Mahomes just eats up the $19.8 million for L'Jarius Sneed? What if this move is simply to make sure you can keep L'Jarius Sneed on the tag? I'm not saying that is absolutely what is going to happen, but I'm saying that is a possibility. Seth Kaiser, friend of the program, he put that on Twitter last night. And at first I thought, man, there's no way. Like I am about 85% sure when I saw him tweet that last night. Now they're trading L'Jarius Sneed. But the more I thought about it, I still think the most likely outcome is that they end up trading L'Jarius Sneed. Then you have a ton of space against the cap. And you only have to be cap compliant here up until the start of the new league year. Then you can move things around it and make it work. I don't think it's going to happen, but it is certainly a possibility. Why wouldn't it be a possibility? If you're not going to get the value you wanted for L'Jarius Sneed from anyone else, why not just run it back? Why not just keep the whole band together? Again, I'm not expecting that is going to be the case. We have a comment here from Sam on the YouTube stream who says, so $8 million of that Mahomes restructure is going to the draft, right? Yeah, that's sort of the common school of thought here, is that by freeing up this $21.6 million, tack on what you had before, that leaves you with $22.9 million open dollars against the cap as we enter into the league year. A little bit of that is going to Mike Pennel. He's probably getting close to a league minimum, so that'll eat up a little bit of that. Pretty much the cap space you already had, that $1.3 million. Then you take off another 8 or so. That'll go to the draft class. That still leaves you with over $13 million available, though. You can do a lot with that. You can go add veteran guys, a veteran wide receiver. More on that in a moment. You can move that around. Maybe veteran depth at defensive line or at offensive line, the safety. Maybe that's Mike Edwards money. I don't know. Whatever it ends up being, you can maneuver around with $13 million pretty easily. Although really you're maneuvering with about another $8 million because you need 5-ish just as kind of your rainy day fund as you get closer to training camp. Guys get hurt, make signings during the year, etc. That's sort of the base level nitty gritty of what you're going to do when you're talking about the salary cap and how much you have to keep open over the course of the year if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. I am just throwing the idea out there. I do not think it is going to end up happening. I don't. I think Snead is going to get traded. You've heard me say that. I think I've just dropped from about 85% certain of it to maybe like 65, 70%, because there are still other guys on this team. There aren't a ton of them, but there are other guys you can move money around with. You can add void years. You can extend for a year. You can spread out cap hits. Maybe you do end up trading Trey Smith. I know we just sort of glossed over that yesterday. I wouldn't in terms of wanting to have the best offensive line possible, but there are pretty decent offensive line options on the interior, at least in a couple of different spots in the upcoming draft. And guards are getting paid obscene amounts of money. The Panthers, again, resetting the guard market on their own by giving Robert Hunt $100 million, 63 of it guaranteed, and another $50 million overall to Damian Lewis. Good players, very good players. You gave $150 million to two guards. That might make it too expensive to keep a guy long-term who is as good as Trey Smith. Maybe moving him is something you do to open up cap space. None of this is guaranteed. I'm not saying the Chiefs have to, should, any of those things with these guys. But I think it is at least worth considering that these are possibilities with the Chiefs going forward. And that is what opening up this money with Mahomes allows you to do. You've got the space now. Do we just use that all to keep L'Jarius Snead, and then we restructure, we trade, we do whatever we can, we make it, have another cap casualty or two to make space for the draft picks, for your one-year veterans to fill out the roster, special teams guys? Maybe that's how you do it. If nothing else, this opens up a lot of flexibility for the Chiefs in the short term. Hard to complain about that if you're Kansas City, right? I mean, you want that flexibility. You want the opportunity to say, we have 2 or 3 options for what we want to do. We want to make sure we can hit on all of them. That's essentially what you did here. Mark on YouTube says a lot of teams are interested in Snead. Someone is going to end up getting him. And again, I do agree. I do think he is going to end up getting moved. I do not think that their trade with Tampa Bay takes the Detroit Lions out of a potential trade situation. I know Spencer mentioned his Commanders. Maybe that's a situation where you could go move Snead. I know they've eaten up a lot of their cap, adding former Dallas Cowboys at this point, but they might end up having the space and the need to go add L'Jarius Snead on a long-term contract. There are a lot of options out there, and really, no one can have too many cornerbacks. There's no such thing. In a pass-happy league where almost every team, not everyone, but most teams are either starting in 11 personnel, that's 3 receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end, or they run a majority of their offensive snaps out of 11 personnel. You've got to have as many guys as possible who can cover as often as possible on your roster. Someone is going to want L'Jarius Snead. The question will just come down to, what is a team willing to give up in order to get L'Jarius Snead? And if it's a second-round pick, if I'm the Chiefs, I probably end up taking that. You get an all-pro caliber season. I know he didn't get voted to the all-pro team, but he deserved to. An all-pro caliber season, multiple Super Bowl starts, and then a second-round pick out of a guy who was once a fourth-round pick and kind of a guy without a position in L'Jarius Snead. Massive home run for this front office. Massive home run. So that's the latest cap-wise with the Chiefs, and plus the Mike Pennel news, which I'm fired up about, man. I think Mike Pennell is a stud. I really do. And again, I don't know why he has continued to bounce around all over the league for pretty much the entirety of his career, but I'm glad he's back with the Kansas City Chiefs. Long-term for a guy who lives on one-year contracts is just another one-year contract, but I'm happy he's going to be a Chief next year. I think that's a really solid move for Kansas City. I also want to make sure we touch on this. So Deontay Johnson, the wide receiver formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers, traded yesterday along with a pick to the Carolina Panthers for Dante Jackson, cornerback, and a pick. Deontay Johnson's a good player. I don't think he is we talk about him being a wide receiver 1. He'll go to Carolina and be their number 1 receiver. There's no doubt about that. He's a good player. And for a lot of teams, he would be your wide receiver 1. If you are a fantasy football player, if that's the way you kind of like to delineate who's a wide receiver 1, who's a 2, he's probably not a wide receiver 1 in that category. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's an elite player. What he is an elite separator. He does an incredible job of getting away from the guys who are covering him. He's one of the very best in the entire NFL. Now, he's got a problem with drops. He's always had a problem with drops, but he's got speed. He's a great route runner. He's a great separator. That's an asset for pretty much any team in the NFL. And the Kansas City Chiefs seemed to feel so as well. How about this? from Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network. He was on NFL Total Access on NFL Network last night talking about this Diontae Johnson trade. And how about this? Mike Garafolo says, quote, "It was made clear to the rest of the league, basically, that Diontae Johnson was going to be available. He had permission, his agent did, Brad Sakala, to go seek a trade. They talked to a few teams. The Kansas City Chiefs had conversations with them at some point, but it didn't seem like they were going to trade him within the AFC to a contender if possible. So sending him to the NFC, to the Carolina Panthers, who have been looking to add receivers, that one made sense. They get Diontae Johnson, and that should help out Bryce Young. We're not worried about the Carolina Panthers part about this. Frankly, no one except the Carolina Panthers should be worried right now about the Carolina Panthers. But that is interesting. One, that the Steelers are considering themselves also in the contending window with the Chiefs. And look, I saw some people clown that on Twitter. Give them credit, man. I mean, if compete for the job you want, compete for the role you want, not compete for the one you have. And right now the Steelers want to be a contender. They want to act like a contender. Fine. More power to them. That's fine. But it is clear, again, the Chiefs are interested in players like this. And maybe you feel like this is just another example of, oh, great, the Chiefs are in the mix or just being used as a leverage ploy. There's no need to talk about leverage at this point. There's no need to do the whole, oh, well, the Chiefs are talking about everyone. We know the Chiefs have a wide receiver need. That's not new to me. That's not new to you. That's not new to Brett Veach. That's not new to the rest of the NFL. They won a Super Bowl without a great wide receiver room. Think about what they could do if they did have a great wide receiver room. So the Chiefs are clearly interested in a guy like Diontae Johnson. Would it have been nice to have a guy like that? Sure. And I don't know who else is out there who you could go and make a trade for. I mean, T. Higgins is the obvious one. I don't think the Chiefs are giving up what it would take to go and get T. Higgins right now. But the Chiefs are clearly looking for a guy like that. So whether it's a free agent like a Tyler Boyd, a Curtis Samuel, a Hollywood Brown, we'll get to some of these names a little bit later on in the show as well. One of those guys, I would imagine, is going to end up with the Kansas City Chiefs. They clearly want to add a player like that along with the draft pick this year. And usually Brett Veach gets his guy. I'm very intrigued to see if the Chiefs are able to pull something off here. Wasn't Diontae Johnson. Would not be surprised if it's one of those other veterans who's out there in free agency right now. We're just getting started here on 580 Sports Talk. Coming up a little bit later on in the show today, here in the 2 o'clock hour and bottom of the 3 o'clock hour, we have our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. We will hear from Kyle Porter of Silver Lake this hour, Matt Tinsley of Seaman next hour to talk about their state championship winning girls basketball teams. But first, we're going to head to the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri to talk to Dan Lucero live from the Big 12 tournament. That's coming up next as we're just getting started on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. 727 here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzynski with you from high up on Huntoon Hill in the capital city. Don't forget, you can hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, or in the YouTube comments, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Coming up a week from yesterday, 6 days from now, as we get ready for the first four of the NCAA tournament, myself, Dan, Spencer, we will be live from Prairie Band Casino and Sportsbook up in Mayetta, just 20 minutes north of the capital city on 75 Highway. We will be inside the Sportsbook for the entirety of the show. Awesome contests, giveaways, promotions going on at Prairie Band Sportsbook. So we are super excited to be there coming up next week on Tuesday, getting ready for the first four of the NCAA tournament here on 580 Sports Talk. From the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City, we are now joined by my co-host here on the program, Dan Lucero. Dan, can you hear us from the T-Mobile Center?
Yes, I can. I had to kind of wander the press row, though. The connection a little iffy, but I am here.
All right, well, good to hear from you. How was game one? BYU doing what BYU does and running UCF off the floor.
Yeah, that's basically the size of it. BYU made 14 three-pointers, and when they do that, they usually win, particularly if they shoot them at a good percentage, which they did. They were 14 of 30, and they hit for a 21-3 lead early on. I give UCF credit. They made it a three-point game at one point in the second half, but BYU took over and did what they do.
Yeah, it was a pretty impressive performance by them overall. How is the vibe in Kansas City this year? I can imagine with a game between a team from Provo, Utah, and a team from Orlando, Florida, probably not the greatest crowd in the world for game one. What is the energy like down there in Power and Light right now?
Well, if you've ever heard the Big 12 basketball anthem, you know that the energy at the T-Mobile Center will average as a 10 throughout this tournament. That just means that KU and K-State later tonight are going to have to crank it up because the energy at the T-Mobile Center for game one probably averaged about a 5.5, maybe a 6. BYU, good contingent. They traveled very well. They showed out. They were loud. UCF's band was very loud and encouraging, but other than that, yeah, not a great contingent of Golden Knights fans in the building for that first game. Starting to fill in a little bit, and this crowd for Oklahoma and TCU is a good one so far.
Yeah, I would hope that a crowd with fans from Norman, Oklahoma City, I mean, frankly, a lot of the southern part of our state, too, I would hope it would fill out a little bit more. Have you indulged in any Big 12 eats so far?
We have yet to do that. The average menu price is $15 per item. So, yeah, right. So it might just be one today that Spencer and I indulge in, but we will certainly keep you posted as to the provenance of the Big 12 eats.
Please tell me that K-State's fried PB&J that just looks like a burned Uncrustable is not $15.
I could not tell you. I haven't encountered that yet. We didn't walk around the concourse too much to go find where everything is, but trust and believe. If they're trying to send me like a PBJ empanada for $15, it better be the best PBJ empanada I've ever had in my life.
We're joined by Dan Lucero. Dan and Spencer are on site at the Big 12 men's basketball tournament in Kansas City at the T-Mobile Center. K-State coming up a little bit later on today. KU will also be in action coming up in the final game of the night. K-State versus Texas, KU versus Cincinnati tonight. Dan, let's get some preview here for the K-State versus Texas game. Of course, we'll be off early today to get that game on the air here on 580 WIBW. Is it possible that K-State can beat Texas? Yes, absolutely it is. Texas, I think, also has a more talented team, even if they are not as talented as they were a year ago. What is it going to take for Jerome Tang's group to get the win today?
They're going to have their best players play really well. I don't think that's too different from any K-State game, but they're going to have to get good nights from Tyler Perry and Cam Carter and Arthur Kaluma. Those guys are going to have to score because Texas can fill it up. Texas has more scoring options, scoring punch. They can survive a little easier if one of their best guys has an off night, like if Max Abmas can't make a shot, which was the case when the two teams played in Austin. Then somebody else is going to step up, like a Dylan Dessou or a Tyrese Hunter. And they've just got different options in a way that K-State just really, really is dependent on their top three guys. And it would be nice to see Carter and Perry both play together at once. It just feels like that hasn't happened for a long time. Carter had been in a funk for about a month, and he played really well against Iowa State, and Tyler Perry couldn't make a shot. So if you can get both of those guys playing well, hitting some threes, and setting an offensive tone, I think K-State will defend enough to stay in the game. Are they going to score enough is the question, and usually the answer is, well, did Carter, Perry, and Kaluma score enough?
I hear Rock and Roll Part 2 behind you being played by one of the bands right now. It really doesn't hit the same when it's brass instruments.
No, it doesn't. We really need a cover version of that song so we can avoid paying royalties to one of the nastiest nasty men of all time in Gary Glitter.
For K-State, I wanted to bring this up. We're going to talk to Fitz about this a little bit later on. I know he did his daily delivery about this earlier today. So Kenny Payne gets fired at Louisville today. One of the funniest coaching tenures in modern college basketball history. Kenny Payne won 12 games in 2 years at a very, very proud program with a whole lot of tradition and a want to win in basketball. Pretty much everyone who has put together a hot board, a list of candidates, whatever, has brought up the name Jerome Tang at this point. I don't necessarily think that Jerome Tang is a favorite to get that job. I don't necessarily think that he is especially inclined to want to take that job over Kansas State. But I am curious, Dan, from your perspective, do you think there is a likelihood to any degree that Jerome Tang would consider taking that job at Louisville?
It's a fascinating question, right? I'm sure that not all of the wounds have healed from how the Naquan Tomlin situation was handled in the immediate aftermath of that. There was a lot of concern about whether Jerome Tang's relationship with the Kansas State University, just the university president, university board of regents, would survive. And would he want to stay at Manhattan for the long haul? And I think that there's still some part of that question that has yet to be answered. But I think that Louisville's probably going to aim a little bit higher would be my guess. And that's not that I don't think extremely highly of Jerome Tang. I do. I think he's a good head coach. He's also been a head coach for 2 years and gone to one Elite Eight. And Louisville is a program with multiple national championships in its history. And I think they're going to aim a little higher and aim for a coach that's got a little bit more tournament experience, a little bit more head coaching experience, because they cannot abide really a rebuild. They want to get good again right away. And that might not be the easy thing or even the right thing, but I suspect that's the path Louisville's going to follow. And I don't think Jerome Tang is the guy if they want to follow that particular path.
All right, Dan, 2 quick hitters before we let you get back to the action there at the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. Number 1, no Hunter Dickinson. Cincinnati good on the glass, big bodies. Can KU still get it done tonight against Cincinnati?
They're going to have to shoot it. They're going to have to do a thing that is very uncharacteristic of them and be really good from the perimeter, really efficient from the perimeter. I think they're probably going to play a little smaller. KJ Adams is going to have to play well. DeJuan Harris is going to have to take more of the offense into his own hands. Nick Timberlake and Johnny Furphy are going to have to make shots. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. KU still has some talent, and there's something to the idea of having nothing to lose, feeling like you have nothing to lose. And the KU team is rarely, if ever, in that sort of mindset, but they will be today, and we'll see how that plays.
Finally, can you actually see what is happening on the court from sitting on Saturn where your media seats are?
You know, it was very kind of Brett Yormark, Big 12 commissioner, to give the media some gift bags, not personally, but the Big 12 offered some gift bags to the media as we picked up our credentials this morning. It was very nice to get a little Big 12 coffee mug. I will use that. It was nice to get some Gates barbecue sauce. I will eat that. But a pair of binoculars, like good birding binoculars, might have been a little bit more useful.
Need a Bushnell sponsorship. Dan, thank you so much for the time. Enjoy the games this afternoon. We'll talk to you for What Is Wrong With You.
Sounds good, man. We'll talk to you later on.
That is Dan Lucero from the Big 12 men's basketball tournament in Kansas City. We have to get to a break. Our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week state championship interview with Kyle Porter of Silver Lake girls basketball is coming up right after this on 580 Sports Talk. 540 here on 580 Sports Talk, and it is time for round one of this week's Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. And Freebird, a perfect segue into the Silver Lake Lady Eagles. Kind of a perfect segue. The champions of Class 3A, an undefeated season under head coach Kyle Porter. The favorites from the very jump this year. Incredible talent, a phenomenal coach, and a phenomenal story on their way to winning the 3A Girls State Championship in Hutchinson. Our Dan Lucero ran down Coach Porter to talk about their state championship win. So here is head coach Kyle Porter of the Silver Lake Lady Eagles, our first featured group on this week's Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week.
Eagles completed an undefeated season as the Class 3A state girls basketball champions, and as such, they are our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. I'm Dan Lucero speaking with the head coach of the Lady Eagles, Kyle Porter. And Kyle, this team had been close each of the last two seasons into the state semifinals. You had a core group coming back with a lot of experience, girls who played in each of those two semifinal defeats. How much did you need to do as far as motivating these girls in this offseason? Or was this a pretty self-motivated group that understood, hey, we've just got to do a little bit more to make that one extra step?
Yeah, I think, the last 3 years to finish our season so close in the state semifinals and not be able to get to that state championship, I think it left everybody in our program hungry. I mean, I don't think there was ever a big need to motivate this group. I think for us, it was just focusing on what we have to do each and every day in order to become the team that we wanted to be by the end of the season. And so a very self-motivated group. They were hungry, and to finish it off with the state championship this year is pretty special.
I happened to see on social media publishing sort of a minutes or a notes from the senior meeting that you had with your team, or that the seniors had. And one of the goals they set wasn't just a state championship. They set the goal to run the table and go undefeated. That's probably not a goal every team can realistically set. But did you think that this team had that opportunity to not just win, but win over and over again and take everybody down?
I think so. Every to start the year, we have a senior meeting with our seniors, and we just kind of try to lay out our goals. And most importantly, the important thing, with they did say an undefeated season, but I think the most important thing is what it's going to take. And then also, what are the barriers? What are the things that might prevent them from achieving their goals? And so it's, goals, in my opinion, can be overrated, but I do think it sets a vision, a course for the year, and certainly an undefeated season was not out of the question for this group. And I think what was most special and most important is they followed the plan on what it would take, and then, to try to prevent and try to get over some of the barriers, that may prevent them from achieving that goal. So special group, undefeated season, not something that I questioned.
Kyle Porter, the head coach of the Silver Lake girls basketball program, our guest, celebrating the Lady Eagles 3A state championship as our Lewis Toyota Athletes of the Week. As the season went along and you were winning game after game by fairly one-sided margins, there were only 4 teams all year that played you within 20 points, and 2 of those were the last 2 games of the season. But as you went along, as you were winning games, did you sense that these girls were up for every game the same way, that they didn't get, for lack of a better way to put it, that they didn't get bored, that they were still invested, that they still knew that they were going to put their best foot forward on the court every single night? Because that can be tough to stay that level of invested and that level of committed to playing at the highest level night in and night out.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that really makes this group special is, you're right, human nature tells you when you see the outcome of the score to get complacent, to maybe take a second and feel good about yourself. But I think with this group, just the focus and the level of locked in, and we talked at the beginning of the year to find joy in our journey and to see each game as an opportunity not only to improve, but an opportunity to enjoy playing with the group that we have. We have these seniors, and I think they finished their 101st game, and a lot of them played as freshmen. So that's 101 varsity games. And and really not to get so focused again on the outcome on the end of this season and more on enjoying and trying to play as good a basketball as we can throughout our journey. And certainly, complacency creeps in. I remember a halftime talk at a certain point where I didn't think we were playing up to our potential, but those situations, in my opinion, were few and far between with this group. We put a good product on the floor each and every night, and that's, again, what makes a state championship team so special is their ability to do that.
A 20-0 regular season and a convincing run through the sub-state and a first-round state tournament victory, a lopsided one over Haven, and then it's Hayden in the semifinals, the number 2 ranked team in the state. A lot of people speculated that was as good as a state championship matchup, but that's the team now that's standing in the way of that trip to a state championship game. And it's a tight one. It's a 2-point game at halftime. What did you see from your team, the way they responded to that challenge and came out and really put the hammer down in the third and fourth quarter against a very good Hayden team in that semi?
Yeah, I think really it was just staying true to what our objective was and what our goals were coming into the Hayden game. I think that we really wanted to attack the scoring area as much as possible. And the second half, we came out and had a nice little high-low look to Kinsey, and she really got going. And then, you have special players that step up and make big shots, and we've seen it throughout the entire year. I thought McKinley was just phenomenal in the first-round game. And then we have Kinsey, and then you have Kaylee Dieter hit some tremendous big-time threes, and Cabrin Kruger diving all over the place. You have special things that occur there, and I don't know if I'm answering your question a whole lot, but really just staying true to what we needed to do to win basketball games and have players step up in big ways. And I feel like we really finished the game against Hayden strong. We managed the clock. We got great looks. We just put it all together.
The championship game against Heston, a team that upset the 2-time defending state champions from Goodland in their semifinal, and they had 2 guards, Kendall Brugan and Abby Proctor, just playing Pop-A-Shot for the entire tournament. It was incredible, the shooting numbers, the scoring numbers that those 2 put up, and they made it a game throughout. But was there a part of you and a part of your team that embraced that, hey, this is the last hurdle, this should be the hardest game, let's go out and finish the job?
Yeah, I think so. In our shoot-around, we had one of our key players talk about wanting the state championship to be an exciting game. And I remember a timeout in the second quarter, and I kind of looked at her and said, "Hey, is this exciting enough for you?" Our players, after a big win against Hayden, our players were confident and, just embracing the fact that, yes, the other team wants to win too, and they're pretty darn good as well. I think allowed us to step up and rise to the occasion as a team and find a way to finish in our closest game of the year. And it should be the state championship.
Kyle Porter, head coach of Silver Lake girls basketball, our guests. We celebrate their state championship and honor the Lady Eagles as our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. I want to ask you some quick questions about some individual players. I want to start with Mackenzie McDaniel in the middle. Tremendous player for you, future Emporia State Hornet. She's tall, but she's not like unfair tall, 6'5", 6'6". She's 6'1". And teams, obviously, for the last couple of years have known that they wanted to take her away in a game plan against you. For her to still be able to get hers, put up the numbers that she put up, and score the big baskets in the big moments the way she did, what does that say about her as a player?
I think it says that, she's a competitor and she's going to find a way to help her team be successful. Looking at Kinsey and her size and her height, is formidable in the half court. But if you watch the second half of the Hayden game and parts of the state championship game, it was her finishing in transition as a trailer. It was her being able to get offensive rebounds, just the effort plays. And she did not, when you have a good post player like that, normally you try to get them a couple breaks here and there. And she played virtually the entire state semifinal and state championship games. So that says a lot about her level of commitment and discipline and conditioning as well.
Your backcourt of a senior, McKinley Kruger, and a sophomore, Kaylin Haney, were your two other leading scorers this year. How did Haney's emergence as a sophomore help her to complement McKinley Kruger's game? And how did the two of those maybe bring the best out of each other in the roles that they were in?
Yeah, McKinley Kruger's been our point guard for the last 3 years, and to move her to be able to have to be able to allow her to be moved off the ball so she can be more of a scoring option. And McKinley understood that and saw that it benefited the team. And I think Kaylin taking over really helped Kinley find her spots, and then also allow her to do some other things defensively that really helped our team be successful in the state championship. I think there were 4 minutes left. She had 2 key steals. She had a key rebound that just kind of really sealed the deal for us. And Kaylin Haney, I mean, just managing the game, her level to be able to change the tempo of a game when she has the ball in her hands, and how unselfish she is. I think both those kids, what comes to me, the word that comes to me is just selfless, being able to complement each other. And then also, I mean, both of them can shoot it too. We saw in the state semis, McKinley finding a bunch of people, racking up a number of assists, and similar, I mean, Kaylin ended up being the scorer in the state championship game with her season high. So complemented each other, and we don't win a state championship without those two players.
Your other two starters, Kaylee Dieter and Cabrin Kruger, and your top 2 reserves, Sarah Worley and Ella Bolin, those are not going to be players that maybe grab the headlines or the highlights, but you don't win a state championship without contributions from everybody. You mentioned earlier, Kaylee Dieter hit some big shots in the Hayden game. Certainly, Cabrin Kruger played a large role. You have spoken highly in previous conversations we've had about the job that Sarah Worley in particular did off the bench. The rest of that 7-player rotation, how vital were their contributions, particularly at state?
Oh, tremendously vital. You think about, I think everybody watches the shot that goes in that wins the game, but when you look at a team that wins a state championship, the players that win the unseen moments, I think, are what win championships. And certainly with Sarah Worley and her defensive ability, I think she had the best plus minus stat in the state championship game. I think we were +8 with Sarah Worley in the game. Kaylee Dieter guarding the opponent's best guard or forward. The versatility she had playing through some injuries, and she was not 100% in the state championship, and we put her on one of their best players. Just the ability for her to impact the game on both ends of the floor. And then Cabrin Kruger, someone that I just was a spark for us all year, whether it be making a big shot, finishing through contact in the paint, getting a steal on defense. She just brought a level of intensity to the game that we really needed. And then Ella Bolin with her size, I mean, just an athlete, someone that can really change the tempo of a game, especially when we had her in our 1-3-1 zone. So just, again, it's a team that wins state championships, and that certainly was the case for us.
The Silver Lake Lady Eagles ran the table 26-0. They hoist the 7th state championship in school history, their first since 2016. Kyle Porter is their head coach. They are the Lewis Toyota Athletes of the Week. Kyle, thanks for taking some time to share some memories of this outstanding team. It sure was fun to watch them play at times this season. And congratulations once again to you and the Lady Eagles.
Thank you, Dan.
That is Kyle Porter, head coach of the Silver Lake Lady Eagles girls basketball team, state champions in Class 3A in the state of Kansas. We've gotten to get to know Coach Porter over time, his run to a state championship with Royal Valley several years back, last couple years back at Silver Lake. Heck of a coach, heck of a program, lots and lots of talent at Silver Lake. And with a number of those players coming back a year from now, senior heavy for sure, but number of players coming back, including Kaylin Haney. They're going to be right back in the 3A mix again come next year. Appreciate Coach Porter joining us for our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. We will be joined by Matt Tinsley, the head coach of the Seaman Lady Vikes, coming up in the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour for part 2 of our Lewis Toyota Athletes of the Week for this week. Coming up, though, in the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk, in addition to our conversation with head coach Matt Tinsley, we will get to some other news from around the NFL and from around the AFC West. The Chargers making moves to get cap compliant movement, including cutting a highly priced wide receiver. The Raiders are letting go a multi-year starter at receiver, and we'll get some news and notes from the Big 12 tournament as well. Plus, Spencer is going to join us from the T-Mobile Center. We'll get to all that, plus your texts on the Top City Metal Supply text line and your YouTube comments as well in the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. It's the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. I am Brendan Dworzinski, and I am flying solo in studio today, high up on Huntoon Hill. Both Dan and Spencer are on site at the Big 12 men's basketball tournament in Kansas City at the T-Mobile Center. We will be joined by Spencer a little bit later on this hour, just about 20 minutes from now, in fact, to get his thoughts on the first ever Big 12 tournament that he has covered. We'll also get his predictions for K-State tonight and for KU versus Cincinnati coming up a little bit later on in the evening as well. We've got plenty to get to in this first segment of the hour coming up here momentarily. Some news from the NFL, get you my thoughts on KU versus Cincinnati, K-State versus Texas. Also, Arizona fans. Not all, but some. They just cannot stop crying that the Big 12 tournament is staying in Kansas City long term. And I've got some words for them coming up here in just a few moments. Also this hour, we will hear from Matt Tinsley, the head coach of the Seaman Lady Vikes girls basketball team, your state champions in basketball for Class 5A this year. What a run it has been for Matt Tinsley's group. So we will hear from the head coach of the Lady Vikes coming up for part 2 of our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week at the bottom of the hour. You are welcome to be a part of the show. You can hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line. That number is 785-272-9429. No more wasting money on metal pieces that leave you with unnecessary leftovers. Top City Metal will cut the exact lengths of aluminum, steel, and stainless steel that you need tailored to your project's specifications. Start optimizing your budget with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field here in the capital city. You can also find us on YouTube, streaming the show live today and every single day. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can find us. Go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe to the channel while you're there. We would really appreciate it if you could help us bump those numbers up a little bit. And I think we've got a ton of awesome video content for you as well. So find us on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. We'll have some video content from Dan and Spencer at the Big 12 tournament today, in fact, that we'll put up on the YouTube as well, so you guys can relive some of the big moments from KU and K-State's games later on tonight. Don't forget that coming up 6 days from today, 1 week from yesterday, we will have the full crew live in person from Prairie Band Sportsbook at the Prairie Band Casino and Resort in Mayetta, 20 minutes north of the capital city. Some awesome promotions going on at the Sportsbook as we get ready for college basketball's national championship tournament. March Madness begins coming up next week, and we are going to be at Prairie Band Sportsbook at the Prairie Band Casino as we get ready for the first 4 games of the of the NCAA tournament. Nice goof there, Brendan. But we will be there nonetheless coming up next Tuesday. Full show as we get you ready for the opening round of the play-in games at this year's college basketball national championship tournament. We are looking forward to that. Again, full show next Tuesday from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta at the Prairie Band Casino and Resort. Wanted to get to a couple pieces of news from around the NFL here before we get to Big 12 tournament talk today. Along with the Chiefs, we already talked about what they've done today, restructured the Patrick Mahomes contract to save $21.6 million yesterday. Drew Tranquill had his I'm back press conference today with the Chiefs beat core. He also broke the news that has since been confirmed by the Chiefs. Mike Pennel coming back on a 1-year deal with Kansas City. Awesome. Super excited to have Mike Pennel back in the fold again coming up next year. Willie Gay, actually, within the last few minutes, he posted his farewell to the Chiefs on Twitter. In part, Willie Gay saying, Chiefs Kingdom, man, I'm so blessed you took a chance on this country boy from Mississippi. Lord knows I was so scared moving 10 hours away from home, LOL. But the amazing fans and people in general here made my transition so much easier. People of Kansas City, I love you all. To the Hunt family, Brett Veach, Coach Spags, and my favorite, Big Red, thank you guys for accepting me for who I was coming in as just a young, energetic, football-loving young man. Over 40 years, I've been to 3 Super Bowls and 4 AFC championship games and won 2 rings. Okay, I'm done bragging. But I'm so thankful for the Chiefs organization. I love you all forever. Now I have to see if I can get my son to stop watching and singing the Red Kingdom videos. I'm so excited for my next chapter of my career with Who Dat Nation. It's go time. Willie Gay, of course, signing a 1-year, $5 million deal with the Saints earlier this week. I'm surprised he didn't get more years. I'm surprised he didn't get more money, but best of luck to Willie Gay. I've always thought Willie Gay is a real nice player, but I guess market dictates value when it comes to free agency, just like pretty much everything else in our society. The rest of the AFC West, well, let me rephrase that. 2/3 of the rest of the AFC West have been very busy. The Denver Broncos re-signed Lil Jordan Humphrey. That's it. That's what the Broncos have right now. Best of luck. This feels like a take your medicine kind of year for the Broncos, considering they have an $85 million dead cap hit for Russell Wilson. The problem with that is Sean Payton's got to be on some kind of timer, you'd think, and player careers don't just pause. Age doesn't pause. I don't know what the Broncos are doing. I do not know what the Broncos are doing. I do know, though, that the Chargers have been busy today. They have made a couple of moves to save some cap room. One, Khalil Mack. We thought could be a trade candidate, maybe even a cap casualty. He is going to stay with the Chargers under the Jim Harbaugh administration in their first year. However, he is reworking his contract. I don't know if it's a simple restructure or if this is going to end up being something a little bit more intense, but he's going to stay in LA, rework his contract. That will save them some cap space to get them cap compliant for this coming year. The Chargers also are cutting Mike Williams. Mike Williams, who only played 3 games this past year, has always played well against the Chiefs. That seems to be, he's a good player. But every year, the 2 games against the Chiefs, if he's able to play in them, it seems like he is playing at his absolute best. He is being cut, though. He had a $32 million cap hit. That's a crazy number, $32 million. But cutting him is going to save the Chargers $20 million against the salary cap. Ian Rappaport of NFL Network said the Chargers would like to bring him back. I sort of doubt that. Normally when guys hit free agency, they do end up going somewhere else. Someone will overpay. That's kind of what free agency is. I'm interested to see where he goes. A lot of people I have seen on social media, I have even seen our pal Matt Derrick, who we'll talk to on Friday, say, what about Mike Williams for the Chiefs? Is that the kind of guy that Kansas City might go after? Chiefs have some newfound cap space now. The league year began 13 minutes ago. Chiefs were cap compliant. Let's roll on through. Maybe Mike Williams is the guy. Matt also brought up earlier in the week that maybe instead of going out after one of the bigger named free agents, what about waiting for Keenan Allen to get cut if he was going to end up getting cut by the Chargers? They didn't have to cut him to save cap space. They got under the cap in time, even without getting rid of Keenan Allen. This is going to be another year older for Keenan Allen, a brand new offense with Greg Roman calling the plays and designing it along with Jim Harbaugh, their new head coach. Is Keenan Allen going to make it all the way through free agency? I don't know. Sounds at this point like he probably is going to stick with the Chargers. Hard to know for certain at this point, though, if Keenan Allen will be around. Maybe a Charger cut. Maybe it would be Mike Williams would be a go-to option here for the Kansas City Chiefs, who, again, as we talked about in the 2 o'clock hour of the show, are clearly looking for a veteran free agent receiver or just a veteran addition at wide receiver. We know, according to Mike Garafolo of NFL Network, they were interested in Deontay Johnson. That doesn't end up working out. Maybe Mike Williams is that guy. Are you worried a little bit too much about A, what he's going to cost, and B, is he going to be able to stay on the field? He's been banged up a lot in his career. Again, only played 3 games this past season due to injury. Hard to say. I'm sure the Chiefs will at least make a call or two to see about the availability and the price of Mike Williams, if I had to guess. The Raiders also in a move today. They cut Hunter Renfrow, so he is now a free agent after 5 years with the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know that he is a perfect fit with the Chiefs, to be completely honest with you. He ends up saving quite a bit of money for the Raiders. I think I saw it was $5 million plus that he's going to save the Raiders against the cap. He's not fast. He's not a vertical threat at all. But in a league that has fewer and fewer true possession receivers, he is a true possession receiver. I'm not sure if there's too much overlap between him and Rashee Rice. Different players, obviously. But if their skill sets overlap a little bit too much for the Chiefs' interest, or maybe the guys that they're looking at in the draft, maybe that they like guys who are more possession receivers versus your vertical deep threats, I would not be surprised if Xavier Worthy or A.D. Mitchell from Texas, both those guys from Texas, would be in the Chiefs' top group of potential targets. Maybe they want to go with a possession guy instead. Hard to know. We won't know until the draft actually rolls around. So for Hunter Renfrow, would the Chiefs be interested? I don't know. I think he's a good player. I don't think he was a good fit for Josh McDaniels' offense because Josh McDaniels is a buffoon. He's an idiot. He's a clown. He's a terrible head football coach. So maybe that's why Hunter Renfrow really took a step back over the last 2 years. But I think that's an interesting name. He'll have a market. He will absolutely have a market for probably a good number of teams across the NFL, if I had to guess. So that's the latest from the rest of the AFC West. We'll get to some other notes from the NFL free agent period officially beginning today, coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll lead off 4 o'clock with our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. As for the Big 12 tournament, Spencer is going to join us from the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City coming up here in about 10 minutes as we get his take on his first Big 12 tournament. BYU already has a win today. They beat UCF by 14 points. So they, after going 14 for 30 from the three-point line, they advance on to the quarterfinal round of the Big 12 tournament. I haven't seen a score yet for the TCU game. We're going to pull that up right now. It's TCU versus Oklahoma in game 2 of the day from Kansas City. And it's TCU. That game is going to half here in just a moment. 42-33 TCU with a 9-point lead over OU in that one. Really not surprised at all by that. I've told you all year, I like this TCU team. I really do. They're a tournament team. They don't ever go that far in the NCAA tournament, but I really think they're a good team. I think it's a good program. And I think Jamie Dixon had a decent squad this year. Kind of flew under the radar. I'm not sure they have enough juice to make like an Elite 8 run this year, but frankly, I'm not super surprised by that result so far in that game today. K-State versus Texas and KU versus Cincinnati are our games for our local teams coming up a little bit later on today. I'm not picking K-State to beat Texas. I'm sorry, Cats fans. I would like to pick K-State to win this game. I don't really trust either KU or K-State at this point. I think there's other reasons why I don't trust KU, most of them due to injury at this stage of the game. For K-State, though, I don't think they're as talented as Texas is. Now, I do think two things do certainly intangibly, somewhat tangibly, work in K-State's favor here. One, as Dan pointed out yesterday, and we've talked about a little bit over the last couple of weeks, with K-State's back against the wall, I think that is something of a position of strength for this program. They have been able to find success when they're in that kind of position before, just this season, in fact, with a couple of wins. So I think that is going to help K-State in this regard. Texas is almost more, I don't know if they're a certainty. They're almost a certainty to make the NCAA tournament regardless. They're not feeling nearly that kind of stress. I don't know how much they can help themselves above the 7 line. I think Bracket Matrix right now has Texas on the 8 line of the tournament. I don't know how much they can help themselves, but I don't really know if sort of winning the tournament, they're going to do anything for themselves. K-State has got to get wins. They have to stack as many as possible. Bare minimum 3, probably have to win the whole thing. Maybe that is a position of strength for K-State that they can feel like that desperation is going to help them going forward. The other thing that helps here is that K-State has a clear coaching advantage. I do not think Rodney Terry is a very good coach. I just don't. We've been over that. Dan has been banging that drum ever since last year around this time. I don't think Rodney Terry is a very good coach. And I think Jerome Tang is a very good coach. We're going to talk about Jerome Tang's future a little bit later on in the show with Tim Fitzgerald. Talked about it earlier on with Dan Lucero as well when he joined us from Kansas City. But I think those things help K-State in this matchup. Are they the better team? No. I think Texas is a full step better than K-State is. Does that mean K-State can't win? No, it certainly doesn't. I think K-State's got a chance. Like Dan told us earlier, though, you've got to get A-plus games from your guys. Tyler Perry's got to be great. Cam Carter's got to be great. If you can get another 16-rebound game from David Gasson, that would certainly help you as well. Are those things all going to transpire? Hard to say. I feel somewhat doubtful, but I'm hopeful. I am hopeful, but also doubtful that K-State is able to do that. Again, I'm sorry, Cats fans. It's just one of those years. For KU, man, I don't know. Cincinnati's probably going to be able to out-rebound KU in this game. I love KJ Adams. You know that. I think he's a really good player. He's not a great rebounder. You're going to have to see more Parker Brown today as well because Hunter Dickinson is out due to that dislocated shoulder. I don't know, man. I think KU wins this game. I'll give you that. I think KU does end up winning this game. I think with DeJuan Harris taking on a bigger, hopefully more aggressive role, it's going to be enough. Johnny Furphy's got to be good. Let's get right down to brass tacks here. Johnny Furphy's got to be good. Nick Timberlake is unreliable. Elmarco Jackson is unreliable. Both those guys are right now. You need DeJuan Harris to be aggressive, and we know he can be when he's turned up. He can be that guy. KJ Adams has to be good for probably close to 40 minutes as the 5 today. Johnny Furphy's got to score. Johnny Furphy's probably got to get you 15-plus points. He's got to be efficient. He's got to give you something on the defensive end. That's what it's going to take. Again, I do think KU gets it done today. I think Kansas is that much better than Cincinnati, better coached than Cincinnati, even though I do like Wes Miller. I think KU gets it done. That's it for my expectations for this tournament. I don't think KU probably beats Baylor in the next round if KU is able to win this game. I have a hard time seeing KU winning it all in Kansas City. It would be nice It would certainly be nice, but my expectations kind of end with slim win over Cincinnati, and then it's all up in the air from there for this Kansas team. I think they get it done. It might get ugly in the post, though. It really might. Not having Dickinson, that's tough. That's tough. Weird year for KU. We talked about it yesterday with Michael Swain. Weird year, weird postseason. Hope for the best at this point. I'm even rocking the KU gear today in studio. Shout out to Home Field Apparel. I'm hopeful again, similar to K-State. I'm hopeful, but my expectations are hovering around no expectations at all beyond this game against Cincinnati. One other note I wanted to get to. I saw a lot of this on social media when Arizona joined the Big 12 officially this past summer. I saw a lot of it when there was talk about extending the Big 12 tournament stay in Kansas City by Brett Yormark earlier this year at Big 12 Basketball Media Day. I think it even came up at Big 12 Football Media Day, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of Arizona fans, more than anyone else, more than Utah fans, more than Arizona State fans, more than Colorado fans, all these other Pac-12 schools who have been just incredibly vocal on social media in particular, but incredibly vocal about why isn't the Big 12 tournament being moved to Vegas? We got to put it in Vegas. It's such a great scene in Vegas. Think of all the other things you can do around the tournament. All right, let's pause right there. And again, I'm speaking to not all, but a large swath, a notable swath of Arizona fans. If your whole point is, what can I do outside of the basketball tournament itself? That kills your whole argument. You're here for a basketball tournament, and Power and Light is a great place to go for this. It is. It's an incredible environment. Everyone who goes to the Big 12 tournament, whether it's KU fans, K-State fans, certainly Iowa State fans, other fans from other fan bases who drive in or fly in, love coming to Kansas City for it. And I keep seeing, and I know social media is not real life. I understand that. Well, it sort of is, but not entirely. We don't have to get into that right now. But so much of, no, it's not even good in Kansas City as it is. I legitimately saw that yesterday. I legitimately saw an Arizona Wildcats fan say it's not even good for a 10-team tournament, let alone a 12-team tournament, 14 teams. It's not going to be good for 16. Get your head out of your backside, man. That is ridiculous. Kansas City does a masterful job with the Big 12 tournament every year. Many conference tournaments have crappy environments. That is the fact of the matter. I know for certain your Pac-12 tournament did. Big 12 tournament is awesome in a great place that loves and supports college basketball. Stop putting everything in Vegas. Everything doesn't need to go there. It was oversaturated before, overexposed before. It certainly is now. Leave the Big 12 tournament where it is. Thankfully, this all came about because Brett Yormark said yesterday the Big 12 tournament is staying in Kansas City through 2031. It should. You should keep it here through 3031. It should never leave Kansas City. It is the best place to host the tournament. Arizona fans, keep crying. I'm glad you're not getting what you want. It should never leave. No more Vegas. Keep it in Kansas City forever. Coming up next, speaking of Kansas City, Spencer Dupuis is going to join us from the T-Mobile Center as we break down the Big 12 tournament. Coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. 328 here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski here with you in studio. Great comment here from Jeffrey in the YouTube feed. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, by the way, is where you can find us. Arizona is joining our conference. The Big 12 is not joining Arizona. Who do they think they are? Texas? No, great take. Yeah, let me tell you, Arizona, sure as hell, not Texas. Let's try, and we're having some technical difficulties here, trying to get to Spencer Dupuis joining us from Kansas City. Spencer, are you can hear us?
Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Spencer, I think we've got you. What's going on, man?
You got me, Brennan?
Spencer, I've got you, man. We got you on air. Can you hear us? We've got you on air. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
There's a little feedback, too. All right, Spencer, what's going on, man? How's your first experience?
It's been pretty fun so far. Definitely a lot of BYU Cougar fans in the house during the first game.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a much better BYU crowd than it was UCF crowd for certain. I asked Dan earlier, you guys hadn't indulged yet. Have you gone to get the Big 12 eats yet?
We have not. I think that might be a post-TCU Oklahoma game thing with that bit of time that we'll have in between.
I know Dan told you, Spencer, beforehand. We were joking about it on the air the other day about the seating at the T-Mobile Center for media. Used to be, I swear, we used to be on the floor. Now everybody is upstairs on the moon. How is the view from up in the hockey press box?
It is what it is. I mean, all the media fits here. They have it up here, so why not use it? I guess that's what I'm thinking. Although they do have this new on behind one of the baskets, a Modelo courtside lounge.
Oh. I imagine
so if
you guys are probably not indulging in that yet, although, I mean, you've got plenty of time, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't work out next year for the Modelo backcourt lounge, as they call it, maybe they can move the media down there.
Yeah, put him right there. Leave the Modelo at the end of it, too. We're talking to Spencer Dupuis. He's joining us from the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City at the T-Mobile Center. All right, Spencer, let's get some thoughts on the games coming up later on today. We'll start with K-State versus Texas. We got Dan's take a little bit earlier on this matchup. I was just saying a few moments ago, I think it helps K-State that they are the more desperate team. K-State has responded well to desperation so far this season. What are your feelings about this game? Do you think K-State has the horsepower to take down Texas, or is it going to be the Longhorns marching on to the quarterfinals?
I mean, I think they have the shot. Obviously, you go back to the last matchup between the two teams. There's a 3-point loss, I believe 65-62. It'll be interesting because, listen to Jerome Tank speak on Monday. He kind of talked about, obviously, we feel like we have the resume to get into the tournament, but we're just looking at one game at a time. I think, Tyler Perry, obviously, the whole thing about him wanting to play in the NCAA tournament, I think that, just them getting back to a tournament might propel them for a run here at the Big 12 tournament.
No, I think that's an interesting point. I mean, that was the whole reason he wanted to come to the high major level, right, is to have a better chance of playing in the NCAA tournament. Is he the X factor for you in this game? Because Dan was saying it earlier. I said it a few moments ago, too. K-State's best players have to be at their best. I didn't even mention Arthur Kaluma. He's obviously got to score the ball for you. Is Perry the X factor, though, knowing how he can get so hot or potentially so cold from three-point range?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the X factor. When you look back at, just looking at box scores, when he is good, they're really good. When you don't get his scoring, they're not winning. I mean, I think that's just plain and simple. If you go back and look at a lot of the box scores, they win most of the games. He has good scoring outputs in, but it's because they also have good scoring outputs from Kaluma, from Gasson, from all the guys you expect to have good scoring outputs. So I think you need to put complete games together when it comes to all your guys getting in the mix and all your guys being able to knock down shots.
Chatting with Spencer Dupuis. He's live with us from the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City for the Big 12 men's basketball tournament here on 580 Sports Talk today. Hopefully for a couple of days. Hopefully both KU and K-State win, and we'll have both in action coming up tomorrow as well from Kansas City. All right, as for that KU game, we talked about it a little bit yesterday on the show, Spencer. KU is obviously down Kevin McCullough, obviously down Hunter Dickinson, kind of a free-for-all, who knows, let's just let it rip kind of game for KU. I'll ask you the same question a little more vaguely, though, talking about Tyler Perry, the X factor for K-State. Who would you say is the X factor for KU in this game, knowing somebody has got to step up with no Hunter Dickinson or no Kevin McCullough? And I guess really it's for this game, but really for the whole Big 12 tournament.
I mean, I said it the other day on the show. I think it's got to be it's got to be Nick Timberlake. Sorry, I was trying to get away from somebody here. I think it's got to be Nick Timberlake. It's got to be Nick Timberlake. You saw what he did on Senior Day. I think that he's shown that he has the ability to score and score big, but he's got to do it consistently. And if he can do it consistent, if they're able to win today, play again, get more and more down the line here. If he can consistently score in the mid to upper teens into the 20s, I think that'll be the X factor for them, is getting him scoring. If I'm assuming Parker Brown's going to be back, if he's going to be full go, you need to get some scoring from him. Obviously, KJ Adams and Marco Jackson. He's going to be a big guy that you need to get points from. He's had spurts. You've seen things where he's really good at, but he hasn't really put together a full game that he's really good at across the board.
Yeah, Nick Timberlake is an interesting case with him, because if you go back and you look at his numbers over time, he's been better as a starter than he has been coming off the bench, which is unfortunate when there are 5 players clearly better than you and you don't have an opportunity to start. But that's when he's been a little bit better. Maybe that is something that unlocks him coming up in this game against Cincinnati coming up a little bit later on today. You just mentioned trying to get away from someone walking around in the media area there at the Big 12 tournament. How has this experience been? Your first Big 12 tournament. There's people everywhere, national reporters everywhere. I know I saw tweets from a bunch of them earlier on today. How is the experience down there at T-Mobile?
It's been pretty good. It's funny because I was just scrolling through Twitter about 15, 20 minutes ago and saw that Jeff Goodman had spoken to Dan D'Antoni, my coach of my alma mater, Marshall, that he's going to come back for another season, not retiring at the age of 77 this summer. And I'm like, oh, he's right 100 yards away from me. So, it's the media here is great. Obviously, it does take a little bit to go down to the media room and then come all the way back up here. But definitely a great experience, and shout out to all the workers here that have stuff for us up here, so we don't have to go downstairs to the main media room.
Yeah, and pretty cool environment, too. We were just talking about this a moment ago, making fun of Arizona fans who keep crying that they have to fly to the tournament. It's not just in Las Vegas. But, the whole environment in Kansas City, because you guys saw it walking in from wherever the media parking was. You walk down Grand there, and you get to see there's the college basketball experience, and the streets closed off in front of T-Mobile. You've got all power and light over there. It's just such a cool environment for such a big event like this.
Yeah, man, it seems like such a cool environment. And Saturday night after the championship game, DJ Diesel, a.k.a. Shaq, is going to be at Power and Light. I think that's pretty cool. He's becoming a pretty well-known DJ for being DJ Diesel, but everybody knows him as Shaquille O'Neal. So that's entertainment they're bringing here. I think the Big 12 Eats is obviously a cool thing. If it was a little bit more reasonably priced, because I was looking at the pepperoni roll, and it was $15. And I told Dan, I said, that pepperoni roll better be like a calzone pepperoni roll.
Yeah, I know Dan was upset about some of the pricing, and I don't blame him, frankly, for that. That's kind of ridiculous. Unsurprising, though. It is sports in 2024. Spencer Dupuis joining us from the Big 12 tournament at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. Spencer, enjoy the rest of the event today, hopefully throughout the rest of the week, too, and bring some good luck home for K-State and KU, all right?
Hopefully. All right. We'll talk soon.
That's Spencer Dupuis from the T-Mobile Center and the Big 12 men's basketball tournament. Dan will join us again from T-Mobile coming up in just about an hour for What Is Wrong With You. Right now, though, we have to get to a break, and when we come back on the other side of this timeout, part 2 of our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. Matt Tinsley, head coach of the Seaman Lady Vikings, will join us. That's coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. 3:40 on 580 Sports Talk, and it's time for part 2 of our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week for this week. What a week it was for the Seaman Lady Vikings, picking up their first state championship in 33 years in Emporia this past weekend. It has been an unbelievable run in recent memory for head coach Matt Tinsley and the Lady Vikes. So many talented players, so many players on this year's roster who were around last year as well and were contributors to a team that made it to state, had their hearts broken first round of the state tournament. They came back as hungry as ever. They knock off the number 1 team in the state, undefeated Andover, on their way to a state championship this year as well. Great game in the final 2. So a huge shout out to that program. A lot of players who have given a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears for that team. And our Dan Lucero got to run down head coach Matt Tinsley as well this week to talk about that state championship run. And oh, what a run it was. So without further ado, part 2 of our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. Matt Tinsley, head coach of Seaman Girls Basketball.
Girls basketball state champions, a second state title in program history, and a first in 33 years accomplished at White Auditorium in Emporia last Saturday. The head coach of the Lady Vikes is Matt Tinsley, and we welcome him in as we honor the Lady Vikings as our Lewis Toyota Athletes of the Week. And Matt, every season's story kind of starts the season before, and certainly that's the case for this year's Seaman Lady Vikings, because I want to go back to the first round state tournament loss the year before to St. James Academy. I know how disappointing that was for those girls, for you and your coaching staff to go in as the number 1 seed and to lose right away. But what did that game reveal to your players about what it was going to take to make that next step to get to the point where they wanted to be as state champions?
Yeah, right after, that game, excuse me, in the locker room, we were saying, hey, we're going to learn from this. We're going to get back here. What is delayed is not denied. That was an eye opener for us and what we had to do to get better as a team and individually. And as the beginning of the season started, I'm sure the girls were tired of hearing us reference St. James all the time. But it's just the commitment that they put in, knowing, all right, hey, this is the next step that we have to take. We got a taste of it. What are you going to do to improve as a player, and what are we going to do to improve as a team? Sometimes a loss that slaps you in the face like that can really propel you into the future, and I think that's exactly what it did.
You had the occasion this season to play St. James early on. You got them scheduled early. You went and beat them in a December game. Was that sort of a cathartic moment for your team, a bit of a page-turning moment to realize, okay, we've put this behind us. We can move on from the disappointment of last year, and we've proven to ourselves this year that this is the caliber of team we can be?
I think you said it all right there, and then shortly right after last year's game, our athletic director, Steve Bushnell, said, all right, what do you need to get it done next year? I said, I want to play it. And we want to play the best competition that we could play. And, going to St. James and playing a very good team, like you said, was a page turner for us that, all right, we got that checked off the list. Now, what do we got to do? We took 2 steps forward. Let's continue to take those steps forward and not backwards. And one thing that we talked about during the season a lot was just the consistency, day in and day out. Are you a little bit better than you were the day before? And if you can say you're just a little bit better each and every day, by the end of the season, you can say you're a lot better. And also, I think one thing that kind of stands out, from the tournament is just the balance that we had. We knew we had a lot of girls that could play, and just getting them to realize that if you guys can do this together and realize that it may not be your night this night, it might be someone else's night, that we can get it done.
Matt Tinsley is the head coach of the Seaman Lady Vikings, who are our Lewis Toyota Athletes of the Week, speaking with us here to celebrate their championship run. You went 20-2 going into the state tournament. There were a lot of big games on your schedule, close games against good teams, and you maybe didn't win all of them, but you played in a lot of games that had gone down to the wire. Is there one game in particular from the regular season that stands out to you, and as a game where you left the sideline and left the gym that night feeling like these girls showed championship mettle tonight?
Well, I think the DeSoto game at our place, we were down at halftime and down the last few minutes of the game. We had girls diving on the floor after loose balls, doing whatever it takes to win. And we stress that a lot. You could help us win a game just by making one play. So I thought, well, really both DeSoto games, we were down late, found a way to win. Excuse me, the Wichita South game, we had lost, so really challenged them. Hey, we got to come back tomorrow, ready to go. Played a really good Wichita Heights team. So I think when you have battles like that, you get battle tested. You find out what your team's all about. And, I think that was the key, going into the state tournament when we got down against Andover. We didn't panic. Just, hey, we've been here before. We know what it's like. And we practice those situations. And I think you get prepared, when you practice those things. And it just comes down to execution and knowing that we've done it before and trusting each other to everybody. We call it alignment and assignment. Be where you're supposed to be where you're supposed to be, and do what you're supposed to do, and really trust each other. And they got that done.
Let's fast forward to Emporia and the 5A state tournament. Round one, you see a very familiar opponent, those same DeSoto Wildcats. You'd beaten them twice in the regular season, but both wins had been narrow. What did you do differently? What did you feel like you had to do differently in the third game to make sure that it didn't come down to the wire? And what were your girls able to execute in that one?
Well, their team, they really mirror ours, with how they play and with their guard play, and they have a strong inside presence as well. Having 2 close games against them, going into that game, we knew we really had to guard the perimeter. They have multiple shooters on that team, so that we thought that was going to be key, and I think we held them under 40 points. Mackenzie Farmer's a great driver into the paint. But getting off to a hot start early, I think that helped. And then, of course, like I told the girls, everybody at the state tournament's good. They made a run back at us. But hitting free throws down the end of the stretch was key. It's tough to play a team 3 times in 1 year, and let alone a good team like DeSoto. So I thought that gave us some confidence, going into that game against Andover. And then the Andover game, playing the number 1 seed, undefeated on the season. We thought maybe if we could get them in a close game. They hadn't really been in a close game, kind of looking at their scores throughout the season, that we could, like I said, just find a way to win it at the end. And Jada Stahlbaumer came out in that third quarter and was just on fire. At 13 points, I know we went on a 19-0 run, and the girls, they were not going to be denied at that point. And then, I think we were just confident going into that last game. And, I challenged the girls before that championship game. I want you to have as much fun playing this game as myself and the other coaches were going to have coaching that game. And they did. And I think there was a stretch in that second quarter where we had 4 different girls hit a 3-pointer. And that just shows our balance and, the commitment and the teamwork that the girls demonstrated the entire time. And not only with the starters, Ava Esser inside with her rebounding and post toughness. That was just a sight to see, because I feel like sometimes Ava doesn't get all the credit that she deserves. But it was good to see her and Jada get some recognition. With Maddie and Talon and Anna, they were first team all league and they scored most of our points. But to see those 2 kids get some praise was awesome to see. And our bench players that came in, I told them, you can help our team by just making one play. Eleanor Stahlbaumer hits a big 3 in that Andover game in the first quarter when we were kind of struggling to score and we're down. And in a 4-point game, that 3-pointer was huge. Maggie Molden didn't score in that game, but she came in, blocked a shot, and was physical with Green from Andover, who had, I think, 15 rebounds in that game. And Maggie kind of set the tone with that block, and just to show that, hey, we're here to play too. And in the championship game, we were struggling to rebound at the beginning, I thought, and Kinley Wellhelm got on the floor after loose ball. And even though it was a foul, I felt like it kind of woke us up a little bit. Hey, we got to be tough. We're not, the job's not done yet. So just really proud of the girls and their overall team effort.
Matt Tinsley, head coach of the Seaman Lady Vikings, joining us. Matt, what was that feeling like? Not just for you, but when did you see it in the eyes of your girls as that time ticked away, as that game ran out of time against Maize South, and you knew you were going to accomplish that goal and be the state champions? What What was that moment like? When was that moment maybe for your girls where you could see it sink in for them that, oh my gosh, we've done it?
Oh man, I can't remember any particular point in the game. I felt like we were in control, even when they made a run towards the end of the fourth quarter. But just looking at Facebook and all these pictures, it's nice to see just different images of the game that you don't necessarily get to see while you're coaching in it. And now the joy that they had on their face, is like we worked so hard for this, and they completely bought into everything that we're talking about. So it really is not. I can't say there's one in particular play. I just felt like throughout the whole game, I just felt like, hey, this is our chance. We're going to do it. I didn't feel any pressure. I didn't feel like the kids played tight. I felt like they played loose. And the bench, oh my God, our bench was active. They were energetic. Our student section was amazing. The parents, their support. I feel like it was just a culmination. Everything just fit perfect in that game and in the state run that we had.
You have 4 starters who are not seniors. Taylon Stahlbommer, your lone senior starter. So Ava Esser and Maddie Gregg and Jada Stahlbommer, and now 2-time United Kansas Conference Player of the Year, Anna Becker, all have an opportunity to come back for you next year. So having won the championship, having this taste going into the offseason, how do you think these girls will respond to next year being the hunted instead of the hunters?
Well, I'm not going to lie. Right after about 5 minutes after the game, I'm thinking, okay, how can we get back here next year? I think as a coach, you're always thinking like that. Then I told myself, hey, I'm not going to think about this. I'm going to enjoy the heck out of this for the time we had this week, and think about next year. But I think the mindset you have to go in. We don't want to look at ourselves as defending 5A state champions, because I think if you have that mindset of defending, you're passive, you're not aggressive, you're not pursuing. So my talk with them at our banquet next week is going to be, hey, we are pursuing just like any other team. Definitely we're enjoying the heck out of this, and we're going to continue to do that. But next season's already started. It really has. In our approach and everything we do, in the spring sport that they're doing, in the classroom, in the off season, we want to pursue just like everybody else. And it's going to take hard work, dedication, commitment. We have some players, like you mentioned, that have been there before. They have that championship now, and now you got to work harder. Like you said, we want to think of ourselves as the hunters and not the hunted. And to do that, you got to think like you're pursuing just like everybody else. And what are you going to do extra that the other teams are not doing?
It had been 33 years since Seaman girls basketball had hoisted a state championship trophy, a fact noted on the warm-up sleeves of every one of the Lady Vikes this year. Matt, I confess, I did not know that until I heard you say that to a local TV station. I just thought everybody was wearing Maggie Molden's shooting shirt. I had, I totally, totally missed it. But
I think that made Maggie feel pretty good too.
I'm sure it did. But that fact is no longer true. It has only been a handful of days now since that has been the case for the Lady Vikes, as they are the 5A state champions in 2024 and our Lewis Toyota Athletes of the Week. Matt Tinsley is their head coach. Matt, we're over the moon for you and your program. Congratulations, and thanks for taking the time.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That is Matt Tinsley, head coach of Seaman girls basketball, state champions in Class 5A, our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. Want to remind you that coming up 1 week from yesterday, 6 days from now, we will be live from Prairie Band Sportsbook up in Mayetta at the Prairie Band Casino and Resort for a full edition of 580 Sports Talk, getting ready for this year's college basketball men's national championship tournament and the opening 4 play-in games as well. We will be there for those games and for the full show on Tuesday leading up to the games. Looking forward to seeing you there. We'll tell you all about some of the fun promotions they've got going on for the tournament coming up later on today and this week as well. That, again, is coming up next Tuesday, a full edition of 580 Sports Talk from Prairie Band Sportsbook and the Prairie Band Casino and Resort here on 580 WIBW. Coming up in the 4 o'clock and final hour of the show. That's right, we're done an hour early today because of K-State basketball. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Dan will join us again for What Is Wrong With You, and we've got the Wildcat wrap-up with Tim Fitzgerald, including What does he think the future holds for Jerome Tang? All that is coming up in the final hour of 580 Sports Talk after the news.
From field to feedlot, farming is a way of life. Whether you've made the difficult decision to retire or you're taking your farming operation to the next level, Big Iron Auction is your trusted partner in online auctions. You can expect a hassle-free, efficient way to sell your acres and ag machines at top dollar. Their team understands the value of your hard work, and they're committed to getting you the best return on your investment. Visit BigIronAuctions.com today to schedule your online auction. Big Iron Auctions, where your success is their business.
I could never have imagined 25 years ago that you'd be looking at a man enjoying life as much as I do.
At age 101, C. Clyde Jones of Manhattan treasures his customized daily home care provided by Interim Healthcare.
I'd say the strength of our relationship is what gives me a happy heart. Just a wonderful group of people.
Interim's caring, trained professionals keep Clyde comfortable, safe, active, and happy in the home he loves.
Oh yeah, this has been my home since 1960. For my tombstone or memorial service when I die, I told the preacher, you just have to say this briefly and quit. He lived life fully. He loved unconditionally. He lived each day as if it were his last.
We care, we're there. Interim Healthcare.
Topeka, Manhattan, Lawrence.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-345-2789. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-345-2789. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-345-2789. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-345-2789. 800-345-2789 or biglou.com.
As you head into retirement, do you ever ask yourself, will I run out of money before I run out of life? Take the fear out of your retirement by tuning into the Retirement Income Hour with Mark Falter. Mark will have information that will help you navigate through those golden years. The Retirement Income Hour is a show built with your financial future in mind. Be sure to listen to the Retirement Income Hour with Mark Falter, Sunday mornings at 8. Investment advisory services offered through Mid-American Wealth Advisory Group, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm.
Kyle Bauer of Clay Center found Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center to be a great alternative to surgery, using his own fat-derived stem cells to heal his painful knees.
I went right back to work. They tell you, look, you're growing back cartilage. Baby those joints along for a couple months and give them a chance to regrow the cartilage.
Schedule your free consultation at Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center in Manhattan and Kansas City. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
For 65 years, Menards has been the one-stop shop for post-frame buildings. Whether it's protecting equipment or you just need a place to keep your toys, Menards has a post-frame building for you. Design your post-frame building and save big. Plus, get free estimates fast, in-store or online with our design programs. Check out more of our great deals going on now at Menards and Menards.com.
Save big money at Menards.
Stay connected for news, sports, weather, and ag on the Voice of Kansas, FM 104.9, 580 AM, WIDW Topeka.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Monica Ricks. TikTok's on life support in Washington, where the House passed a bill today that could get the app banned in the U.S. unless it cut ties with China. CBS's Allison Keyes is in D.C.
In front of the White House, TikTok supporters wore buttons and carried signs reading #KeepTikTok. At the Capitol, one demonstrator spoke passionately.
This is a life-changing app.
But supporters of the bipartisan bill argued the Chinese government could force ByteDance to hand over the data on those users.
The bill heads to the Senate next. The White House is slamming comments by Russian President Vladimir Putin.
In an interview, Putin said Russia is ready for nuclear war. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says it appears Putin was restating Russia's nuclear doctrine, but that doesn't excuse it.
Russia's nuclear rhetoric has been reckless and irresponsible throughout this conflict.
Speaking on Air Force One en route to Wisconsin, Jean-Pierre added Russia is responsible for the war in Ukraine, not the other way around. Linda Kenyon, CBS News, the White House.
Many voters are focused on Biden and Trump heading into November, but Robert F. Kennedy is still running as an independent in 2024 and says he plans to announce a running mate later this month in Oakland, California. He told the New York Times this week NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers and former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura are on his short list. In Haiti, Americans are panicking with no way home as the gang violence crisis there continues. Miriam Sinasi was on a mission trip.
No one wants to be stuck or feels trapped in any way, shape, or form, and that's what we're all feeling right now.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken says a ceasefire is the most effective way to get food to desperate Palestinians in Gaza.
There's movement, and it's positive, but it remains insufficient. Israel still needs to open as many access points as possible and keep them open to make sure that things are flowing in a sustainable way.
In Texas, Governor Greg Abbott's blasting bands and artists boycotting the South by Southwest Music Festival in Austin.
The protest spearheaded by the Austin for Palestine Coalition, its spokesman Gumbo V.
We wanted to alert these musicians that South by Southwest was platforming these military contractors and simply ask them to make a statement.
Specifically, the festival's affiliation with the U.S. Army and defense contractor Raytheon. Texas Governor Greg Abbott taking to social media saying, "Bye, don't come back. We're proud of the U.S. military in Texas. If you don't like it, don't come here." Chris Fox for CBS News, Austin.
Jelly Roll, Kelsey Ballerini, and Lainey Wilson are among the lead nominees for this year's CMT Awards. The show celebrates the best in country music, and it airs on CBS next month. This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive. See why over 28 million drivers trust Progressive to stay protected on the road. See for yourself at Progressive.com.
Kansas Information Network News. I'm Lisa Ruttman. A fire has claimed the life of a Platte County, Missouri woman.
Fire officials say the unidentified woman died Tuesday morning at a mobile home on Northwest 48th Street. Firefighters faced tough conditions due to the structure and lack of water, and after getting the flames extinguished, they found the woman's body inside the home. A woman told police it was her mother-in-law inside the double wide at the time of the blaze. No word on what sparked the fire. I'm Brendan Dixon.
Emporia has been nominated by USA Today as one of the nation's favorite main streets for the 2024 Reader's Choice Awards. In 2016, Emporia took the title of Best Main Street, and now they're asking the community to help them take home another win. Visit 10best.usatoday.com to vote by April 8th. This is Kansas Information Network News.
So it is the final hour of this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk. I am Brendan Dworzinski, alone with you in studio today, but I will have plenty of friends with me throughout this final hour of the show. We are off at 5 o'clock because of Kansas State basketball. K-State taking on Texas tonight in the first round of, well, the second round, technically, of the Big 12 men's basketball tournament. It'll be the first game for K-State tonight in the Big 12 tournament. And we're going to preview the game with Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com for the Wildcat wrap-up. That is coming up at the bottom of this hour. We will also talk to Dan Lucero, who joined us a little bit earlier on from the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City at the T-Mobile Center. He will join us again coming up in about 20 minutes for today's edition of What Is Wrong With You. And we've also got our 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up here in just a moment. We would love to hear from you on this final hour of the show on this lovely Wednesday afternoon. Hit us up either on the text line, 785-272-9429. Our text line, of course, is sponsored by Top City Metal Supply. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money. Metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field here in the capital city, sponsoring our text line. You can also find us on YouTube. Head to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. That's 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe to our channel while you are there. And of course, you can find us and hang out with us in the live stream. The video is also streamed live on the WIBW News Facebook page and at 580 Sports Talk on Twitter. Shout out to all the folks who are watching along with us today. Laramie says, afternoon BD, go Cats. I said it earlier in the show. We'll talk about it a little bit more coming up. I do not feel great about this game for K-State, but I'm very hopeful. Kansas State can beat Texas. It is absolutely 100% possible K-State can beat Texas. I'm not necessarily picking that to happen, but again, I'm hoping the desperation factor hopes K-State, and I hope you, Wildcat fan and fans out there, have something to cheer about today when K-State hopefully does not see its season come to an end against the Texas Longhorns. Good afternoon to you as well, Laramie. I had a minor technical audio difficulty on the YouTube stream during our top of the hour news and commercial break. Got that figured out, but we have JB here on YouTube who says, I'd rather hear a hot mic of what you all say when you think we can't hear you, helping boost those numbers. You know, there's something we learned. Jeffrey also chimes in and says, I'd also be down for the hot mic too. So there's something you learn when you get into this business. And I've been, on the business side of it since I have been here at 580 in August of 2017 until now. But I've been on the radio. I was in high school, I was in college as well on the radio. And something you learn very early on that you are told by teachers, by professors, by bosses, by whoever. Always act like the microphone is on. Always act like it is a hot mic. Because if you don't, you end up sometimes dropping curse words, F-bombs, whatever it might be. Sometimes you end up like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, who one time, one of their last couple seasons on Fox, not realizing that they were on a hot mic, got caught and got in trouble for making fun of the flyovers at football games. Sometimes you end up like Tom Brenneman with a deep drive to left field, and that'll make it a 4-0 ball game. You always have to act like the microphone is hot. So generally speaking, we don't too often. We have another audio issue here on YouTube. Apologize, guys. We do, though, not usually like curse or say mean things about various people. Sometimes we talk like that. We're people. Sometimes that happens. But generally, I don't think it gets too colorful when the mics are off. So I hate to break it. Now, that's not always the case. Probably, if the guys had been here and it was just me talking earlier on about Arizona fans complaining and whining and crying about the fact that the Big 12 tournament is in Kansas City and not Las Vegas. If the guys had been here, I probably would have said some not so nice things off the air. But generally speaking, try to keep it clean because you never know. You never know when the microphone's going to be on and then you Tom Brenneman yourself. Never, ever go full Tom Brenneman. But we appreciate you guys hanging out with us both on the text line on YouTube, listening online at 580WIBW.com, and of course, 580 AM and 104.9 FM. Now we've got everybody who says they want the hot mic in the YouTube comments. Look, it would be entertaining. If we were on satellite radio, absolutely. Absolutely. Or even if we were just on YouTube, we could probably get away with it. Unfortunately, I am beholden not only to my boss, but also to the Federal Communications Commission, and they do not take nearly as kindly to those things. So my apologies to everybody who's listening along. All right, before we get to what is wrong with you, before we get to Tim Fitzgerald and the Wildcat wrap-up, let's dive right on into today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. A few big pieces of news from around the world of sports. How about this one first? Some great news for the Kansas City Royals and one of the greatest athletes, maybe the greatest athlete of all time. It was announced earlier today, Bo Jackson is going to be inducted into the Kansas City Royals Hall of Fame. One of the greatest of all time. I was born after Bo's heyday as an athlete, but you heard Jake LeBon say it on our airwaves, Trevor. You've heard Dan talk about Bo Jackson for a long time. I think every sports fan in America has seen or at one point owned the poster of Bo with the football pads on, with the baseball bat over his shoulder. Almost mythological, his athleticism and his ability to play multiple sports and to be as good as he was at both sports. Great career as a Kansas City Royal, and he will be inducted into the Royals Hall of Fame. Funny quip from him today. He had a press conference talking about this and talking about his induction into the Royals Hall of Fame. And he was asked by a TV reporter in Kansas City, what do you miss more, playing football or playing baseball? And his response was, I miss the payday most of all, which, hey, man, I get it. I totally get it. I know this isn't nearly as creepy as it sounds, I promise. I know where Bo Jackson has lived for the last couple of decades in the Chicago suburbs, or the general area where he's lived. And an extra couple of pro athlete paydays would be nice to live in that area of the Chicago suburbs. I thought that was funny, but no, certainly deserved. We've got a comment here from Jeffrey on YouTube. Bo knows. That's right. Bo does know. One of the greatest athletes to ever live, to play any sport, certainly in American history, and you could probably argue world history if we're being completely honest. He could have done anything he wanted, and he will be inducted into the Kansas City Royals Hall of Fame. So a big shout out to Bo Jackson. And long time coming for Bo. I think everybody is pretty much in agreement on that. Let's get to some other headlines from around the sports world today. We will start in the college basketball world. We talked about this a little bit with Dan earlier today when he joined us from the T-Mobile Center. We're going to bring it up with Tim Fitzgerald a little bit later on. In fact, Fitz actually had this as the topic of his daily delivery today, and Jerome Tang and his future. So where this is all rooted from, this discussion today, Louisville has fired Kenny Payne as its head men's basketball coach. Kenny Payne won 12 games in 2 years. He won 4 games last season, 8 games this season. Really, there was no reason to keep him as long as they did. If they had wanted to fire him after 1 year, they probably could have. That's a terrible, terrible state for that program. A very proud program at Louisville, with the best court in the country, by the way, with the old school dunking cardinal. It is the best basketball logo in the country. But that being an aside, Kenny Payne was an awful head coach, and I don't know what is next for him. It should never be being a head coach again, probably at any level. Louisville's got some real rebuilding to do, but that is a program that has tons of fan support. They are the only show in town. Louisville, football, basketball, baseball, women's basketball, everything. That is the only show in Louisville. I know they have a professional women's soccer team too, but they are the big show. They are the number one thing in Louisville. They've got institutional support to become better. They've got money to spend to get a good basketball coach to improve that team. They've got NIL commitment to that program. That has been one of the programs that has been considered, from what I have read, from what I know, like, hey, as soon as they get a coach and some players in there, they're going to have that NIL money flowing, no trouble whatsoever. So that is a plus working for Louisville. They've got all of these things, the rich heritage, the support, the money. They've got all of those things. They should be a perennial Sweet 16 contender, if not national title contender. I honestly believe that. I don't know that they'll ever be Kentucky, but they've got the want to, and they've got the ability to compete year after year. Kenny Payne, unmitigated disaster at Louisville. So 24/7 Sports and Eric Bossy, who we've had on the show before, E-Boss is phenomenal at what he does. He put together today for 24/7 his preliminary list of coaching candidates following Kenny Payne's firing for Louisville men's basketball. And these names are, they've come up in numerous places. I saw one reporter for WDRB TV in Louisville send out a tweet the other day when, again, it was pretty much known Kenny Payne was going to get fired. We knew going into the year Kenny Payne was going to get fired. They just didn't want to fire an alumnus after just one season. But we knew that this was coming. And a lot of the same names have come up. Number one on the list, and from this reporter for Louisville TV, and he's on this list from Eric Bosse as well, I find fascinating is Scott Drew. If anyone was going to be able to give Baylor a run for their money to go pull Scott Drew away from Waco, it would probably be Louisville. Is this going to happen? Honestly, I would give it 5% or less chance. Just my personal opinion. I don't think Scott Drew is leaving Baylor. I think he's going to stay at Baylor forever. Baylor also, you may know, has money and will be able to keep Scott Drew. If he wants a challenge, Louisville would be that at this point. His name has come up a bunch, essentially in a make him say no kind of way, which if you're Louisville, hey, why wouldn't you try to make him say no? So he's on this list. Mick Cronin, who has had a really bad year at UCLA, but took them to a Final Four back in 2021. He's been a good coach for a long time, had a lot of success at Cincinnati as well. Other names, Dusty May. He's obviously a really hot name, 47-year-old head coach at Florida Atlantic. There was that great piece that was done by our pal CJ Moore over at The Athletic this past week about what he has done at FAU in that program. Probably a bit of a risk. FAU has taken a step back this year. They made it to a Final Four a year ago, brought everybody back. They are right now they're probably in the NCAA tournament, but they're closer to the fringes of it than to certainly safe territory. Sean Miller, I would not hire a Miller brother at this point to a premier program. I just wouldn't, to be completely frank with you. Eric Musselman is on this list. Not a surprise. Every major program with a lot of money is going to have Eric Musselman on their list. Muss, by the way, is older than you think. I know he's been in the game for a long time. He's a basketball lifer. He's 59 years old. I don't know if that's the move that they would want to make, but we'll certainly see about that. He is on Louisville's list. Additionally, Shaka Smart, he ain't leaving Marquette. He's from Wisconsin. He's got something going there. I don't think Shaka's all that great of a coach. Anyway, he's on the list. Will Wade from McNeese. Louisville got rid of Rick Pitino in the first place because of an NCAA scandal. I have a hard time seeing them going after Will Wade. We'll see. The final name on the list is Jerome Tang. I don't think Jerome Tang is going to leave Kansas State. I will put that out there right now. If you were to tell me which is more likely, Tang stays or Tang leaves, I would tell you what is more likely is that Jerome Tang is going to stay at Kansas State this year. That is my opinion. That is my guess. This is the cost of doing business if you are Kansas State. If you are not a true blue blood program, and in college football, we have already seen that not even be the case. Lincoln Riley was at a blue blood in Oklahoma, and he still left for another one. Brian Kelly was at Notre Dame and left for LSU. So in college football, this has become even less of a thing. But in college basketball, unless you are Kansas, Duke, probably North Carolina, Kentucky, nothing is sacred. Nothing is sacred. And that's the cost of doing business. And it is what it is. And if you're Kansas State, this is a good thing. It's sort of what we've talked about in the last couple of years with Kansas, and that, hey, you went from being dog water to now all of a sudden everybody wants your head coach and everybody wants all your assistants. That's a good thing. That tells you you're doing something right. Same thing applies here to Kansas State. If people want your head coach, that means you've got a really good head coach. And again, I think Jerome Tang is going to stick around, but this year it's Louisville. Maybe in a year or two, it's, maybe Cal finally hangs it up at Kentucky. A bounce back year for K-State next year. You're going to hear that come up. You're going to hear, well, what about Jerome Tang? He's got energy. He's a good recruiter. We could use new energy at a school like that. I'm just throwing out random names, but you understand what I'm talking about. His name is going to come up. It is going to be out there. Is he going to stick around at K-State? I hope he does. I like Jerome Tang. I like following Jerome Tang's program. I know it's been a down year. It's been a disappointment of a year. I think they'll be back in tournament contention again next season. I've got no doubts about that, to be completely honest with you. But this is going to happen. His name is going to come up, especially for schools with big profiles and big bucks that they can throw around. I'm not saying he will leave, but I am telling you, K-State fans, get ready for this. Everybody is a stepping stone at some point. In college football, it's, you're a stepping stone unless right now you're Alabama and Georgia, probably. Maybe Ohio State. That's about it. College basketball, I gave you a few. That's it. And that's not even to put down Kansas State. This is a program with a proud heritage and an Elite Eight last year. This is the cost of doing business in college basketball when you've got a great head coach, though. I hope he doesn't leave. These rumors, though, are not going away anytime soon. And there's a special, especially some extra flavor to this one because of what happened with the Naquan Tomlin situation and President Richard Linton earlier in this basketball season for Kansas State. So his name is out there. I don't think he will leave, but K-State fans, that name is, those rumors, his name in the rumor mill, unfortunately, not going anywhere as long as he is at Kansas State. Other headline from college basketball today, also involving the Big 12. K-State grad, Kansas native Josh Eilert, he is out at West Virginia. They are going to start a national search for their full head coaching job. Impossible situation for Josh Eilert. We're a little bit short on time here with headlines, so I don't want to read you his entire statement, but he put one out talking about how proud he was of what they did, what they accomplished, the difficulty of the situation at West Virginia, and hoping for the best for everyone involved, including West Virginia fans. Really classy from Josh Eilert. No one should be surprised by that at all. But after 1 year as the interim head coach for West Virginia, he is out in Morgantown. Tough break for him. I hope he gets another chance to be a coach someday. It was going to be really, really difficult for anyone at West Virginia this year with what happened at the end of the Bob Huggins era. Really tough situation. And that's about it. Let's move on to the NFL free agency world. Earlier today was the start of the NFL league year. So contracts can be officially signed by new free agents as of 3:00 Central Time today. And we have breaking news in the last 10 minutes while we were talking about Jerome Tang there. Calvin Ridley, after the last about 48 hours, there was a lot of talk from NFL insiders that there was a two-horse race to get Calvin Ridley. New England was really pushing for him, but Jacksonville wanted him back. They wanted him to stick around in Jacksonville to be the number one receiver for Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson's offense. And it sounded for pretty much a full day like it was going to be one of those two. I thought it was going to end up being Jacksonville. But surprise, someone else from the AFC South has swooped in. Calvin Ridley is headed to the Tennessee Titans. I know there were some Chiefs fans who thought, what about us? What if we went out and got Calvin Ridley? What if that was our big free agency splash? We trade L'Jarius Sneed on the tag, we give the mega deal to Chris Jones, and then we get Calvin Ridley. I'm about to tell you how much money Calvin Ridley is getting from Tennessee, and you will very quickly say, I understand why he was never in contention for the Kansas City Chiefs. 4 years, $92 million, $50 million fully guaranteed. That was never going to be on the table for the Kansas City Chiefs this year. Would have been fun. Would have been cool. No one should be surprised that he is not going to be a Kansas City Chief. That is a lot of money for Calvin Ridley. He's a good player. That is a surprise move for certain. And wow, that's kind of a shock. Our guy Matt Derrick just tweeted this out. Can you imagine the look on the face of Mike Vrabel if the Titans GM Rand Carthorne had walked into his office today and said, problem solved, I got you Mason Rudolph, and spent $92 million on Calvin Ridley. Mike Vrabel, obviously no longer the head coach in Tennessee. He's not coaching anyone this coming season. The Titans did also sign Mason Rudolph today. So your QB room next year is Malik Willis, Mason Rudolph, and Will Levis. Good luck, Calvin Ridley. Other news from around NFL free agency today. Couple other notes, not really a free agent move, but the Ravens traded offensive tackle Morgan Moses back to the Jets where he had previously played. They swapped picks as a part of that deal as well in the 4th round. The Texans traded defensive lineman Malik Collins to the San Francisco 49ers. We've got a new number one, at least tied for number one, for the highest average payout for a kicker in NFL history. My guy, my fellow Lyons Township High School class of 2013 alumnus, Jake Elliott. He is now going to make a 4-year, $24 million deal with the Philadelphia Eagles official. $6 million a year ties Justin Tucker for the highest average value for a kicker in NFL history. Good for Jake. Shout out to Lyons Township High School. Additionally, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Khalil Mack, he is going to restructure his contract, save some cap space, stay with the Chargers. LA today also releasing wide receiver Mike Williams. Now, is that a possibility for the Chiefs? That one could be in consideration. That'll do it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Again, we are done early today, off at 5 o'clock for K-State basketball. But coming up on the other side of this break, we've got What Is Wrong With You. We're still taking your texts throughout the show, 785-272-9429 for the Top City Metal Supply text line. Dan Lucero is going to join us from Kansas City next for What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. With you time on 580 Sports Talk. And we are now joined for What Is Wrong With You from the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. Our very own Dan Lucero joining us. Dan, how is game 2 of the Big 12 tournament?
It's not my favorite basketball game I've ever watched in my life. Oklahoma trying to make it interesting. They're within 9 of TCU, 75-66 with 2 minutes left. We're getting Zombie Nation here at the timeout. TCU's led by as many as 19. Oklahoma's without like 2 of their 3 best players. I'm ready for it to be over. I'm ready to get to the evening session.
Well, we are as well. And again, we're out of here in about half an hour as we get ready for K-State basketball. First, though, Dan, we've got What Is Wrong With You. And let's go with your story first today.
Yeah, so we've got a callback to a story that was a monthly winner from last year. Remember those 3 guys who broke into a jail?
Of course.
Well, we've got one guy that broke into a jail in Standish, Michigan. He broke into the former Standish Correctional Facility, which closed in 2009. Police responded to an alarm at the former prison around 11:30 p.m. on Sunday and allegedly found a glass door at the administration building smashed and 42-year-old Cody Bellamy of Prescott walking out. Investigators found several items in his 2015 Lexus, including stolen jewelry, some cash, burglary tools, and an unregistered firearm. Bellamy was arraigned on 4 charges, including possession of burglary tools, and remained in custody Monday. So why does someone break into a closed prison building? His initial statements were that he just wanted to walk around and take a look. But in reality, when you're in possession of burglary tools and masks, that's probably not the case.
Yeah. That's really funny.
We never really got to find out exactly what his reasoning was. But broke into a prison, just kind of chilling out. I don't know what he wanted to take from there, but he'd already stolen some other things, and I guess he was just getting a tour of his future surroundings.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was just trying to figure out what that was going to be like when he eventually went to the clink himself. That's really funny. My story, you'll never believe this, is going to take us to Florida, West Palm Beach to be specific, where police have arrested a man after he allegedly robbed a Boost Mobile store and then sped off in a stolen U-Haul truck, triggering a chase with police. Local authorities received a call at 10 a.m. This actually happened a while back in January, but the court case has just played out. From an employee at a Boost Mobile store off South Dixie Highway. She said the 26-year-old man demanded cell phones and her purse. How often do you rob a worker's purse when you rob a store? During the robbery, his hand was allegedly in his pocket, causing the worker to suspect he may have been carrying a weapon. A report indicates that police arrived at the scene and obtained surveillance footage showing the man leaving the store in what was a stolen U-Haul truck. They quickly tracked its plates and found him speeding through red lights and running stop signs. The man was swiftly pursued by police, and a dramatic video shared on social media captures the final moments of the chase, where this guy in his stolen U-Haul crashes into a Ford Explorer and rips the front quarter off of the police cruiser. The 26-year-old was arrested and charged with fleeing and eluding, battery on an officer, resisting arrest, and robbery. The police officer inside the Ford that was hit suffered minor injuries, went to a local hospital to be checked out. They were able to identify the man, Dan, because he had been arrested prior in that month for carjacking. So he had just finished off one crime and decided, what about one more?
Passionate about doing crimes. I mean, follow your passion, I guess, except when it's doing crimes, then you should probably not be so quick to follow your passion. I also don't think a U-Haul is a great getaway vehicle. Number one, they have a governor on them that only allows them to go but so fast. Number two, they're very distinctive because they're orange and white and they say U-Haul on the side.
I was in a U-Haul taking furniture, schlepping it back from Lawrence to Topeka within the last few weeks. And let me tell you, not very easy to drive. And also, does not exactly go fast. I feel like just using your own car or some other vehicle probably would have been the smart approach for this guy. But as it is very obvious from the story, smart's not really his thing. So those are our 2 stories today, Dan. Who's the winner?
No. I got to go with the guy that broke into prison. Again, I don't know why that's a thing that you would want to do under any set of circumstances. 2 solid stories today, but I'm leaning toward the prison break-in.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I find that to be very funny. We could also issue a What Is Wrong With You to the Oklahoma band playing Boomer Sooner behind you right now, despite the fact that they're losing. I am going to say, though, that does not beat yesterday's winner, the Burger King divorce incident. That one's got real staying power.
I think so, too. I still am laughing about this scammer who pulled 3 different scams, and one of them was convincing someone to meet him repeatedly at a Burger King and claimed he was a paralegal that would help with his divorce process. And look, man, I understand maybe, yeah, okay, he doesn't want to meet in the office. That's fine. Everybody needs to get out of the office from time to time. But if I want a very serious lawyer and I'm going to give him $6,000 of my money to make sure my divorce goes through, I'm going to need him to treat me to something a little bit nicer than a Yumbo.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. So that is our winner again today, the Burger King divorce incident in What Is Wrong With You. Dan, thank you for the time. Thank you for the fun. Bring home some wins for KU and K-State tonight.
Hey, we'll sure do our best. Thanks for having me.
That is Dan Lucero from the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City on site for the Big 12 basketball tournament. We'll have K-State action coming up at the top of the hour, but first we've got to get to a break. Tim Fitzgerald joins us next for the Wildcat Wrap-Up on 580 Sports Talk. We are hoping that tonight brings a big Kansas State victory in the second round of the Big 12 men's basketball tournament. And to talk all about it and all things Kansas State, we are now joined by our good friend Tim Fitzgerald, the publisher of GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Go check out all the best coverage of K-State over at GoPowerCat. Check out the GoPowerCat YouTube channel as well. and make sure you're following Fitz on Twitter at Life of Fitz. Just you and I today, Fitz. The other guys, they abandoned us.
So we don't need them. We don't need them.
No, never have, never will. Just kidding. Guys, come back. I can't do this on my own every single day. Fitz, I needed to bring this up to you. I know you've been to your fair share of Big 12 basketball tournaments. It is awesome in Kansas City. It's a great environment. There's great fan buy-in. The city is all in for it. It's a great event. I don't know. Have you seen as many, and it's just one fan base. It is just Arizona fans. I haven't seen it from Utah or Colorado or the newest newcomers or Arizona State or anyone. It's just Arizona fans on Twitter will not stop crying and whining that they're keeping it in Kansas City instead of Vegas. Have you seen as much of that as I have?
Yes, but I've seen it from Arizona fans, Utah fans, Colorado fans, Cincinnati fans. I mean, how about this? Join a conference and see how they do things before you complain about how they do things, because you want things done the same way that your conference that went out of business did things.
Yeah, maybe something to certainly keep an eye. I know the guys told me earlier, though, that BYU traveled really well. I'm sure there was nice, frothy 2% all over the Sprint Center for them and all around Kansas City. I'm sure they had a good time. If you're listening to this show anywhere outside of our area and you're on the fence like, oh, that doesn't sound great, come. It is an incredible event in an incredible environment.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, you can park on the fringes and grab the trolley or whatever they call it down into the power and light. It's part of your face off. It's just great. It really is. It's hard to explain to these people that don't even want to come see it how Kansas City is the Big 12 tournament. It's not an event in Kansas City. Kansas City becomes the entire thing. It's amazing. Everyone knows why you're there. Everyone interacts. There's so many fans downtown. I just saw a stat that last year the Big 12 averaged 18,000 a session in Kansas City, and the Pac-12 averaged 11,000 in Las Vegas.
Wow.
I mean, guys, 11,000 people going to an event in Las Vegas is nothing. Nobody knows it's there. And look, you know me. I'd move my house to Las Vegas. I love Las Vegas. But there's some things that just work where they're at, and this is one of them. Kansas City and the Big 12 tournament. I can't wait for them to come and enjoy it. I mean, you know what? Maybe it'll be 35 degrees and it'll be miserable because of that. But here's the really cool thing. People show up for the basketball games and are actually in town for the basketball games. That's why they came.
Agreed. I'm with you on that argument 100%. We're talking to Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. It's the Wildcat wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk. Fitz joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Make sure you go check out him and his staff and their great work over at GoPowerCat.com. It's part of the 24/7 Sports Network. K-State is in action coming up here, Fitz, in just about an hour and 15 minutes, opening up their Big 12 tournament run against Texas. I've been saying it throughout the show. I am not picking K-State in this game, but I do think it helps that K-State has a lot of experience already this year in back against the wall kind of games. And for the most part, like including on Saturday against a team better than Texas and Iowa State, K-State in desperation mode picked up a very impressive win over a top 10 Iowa State team. Is that something that you think K-State can use as positive momentum against a Texas team that frankly isn't really all that interesting this year?
I can't figure out Texas. They're really athletic. They're really skilled. They've got some good players. Max Abmas is there. Imagine Max Abmas being on K-State like we all expected to happen. It didn't happen. The fate of the two programs would be so different. It does amaze me when you look at what Texas has. Max Abmas being their leader got them to being seated one spot, a few spots higher, one more win than Kansas State in the Big 12. That's what it was. It's incredible to me. But let's just say this. Kansas State has won some big games with their back against the wall, but usually what happens with that, like when they beat West Virginia and BYU at home, they had 3 games they needed to win, and they won 2. They don't quite get it done. And I think they might beat Texas. I actually think Texas wins this game for some reason. They might beat Texas, but then you got to beat Iowa State again. I just think they've left themselves too big of a mountain to climb right now.
For this game in particular, and honestly, you could probably extrapolate it to the rest of the tournament should K-State advance on, who is the most important player who has to be great?
Arthur Kaluma. When Art asserts himself and plays the way he can and doesn't get bogged down thinking about it too much, you can see him sometimes get himself into situations and then he starts faking to the left, faking to the right, faking to the left. Art, that's not working. You just got to start over here. If he gets out of that and just attacks the rim and is assertive, K-State's pretty darn good. That's what happened against BYU. He was really good, and BYU just couldn't match it.
There's plenty of rumor mills right now spinning, specifically in Northern Kentucky, about what is going to happen for the Louisville head coaching job. Fitz, now that Kenny Payne has been fired, they could have fired him like 8 games into last season and no one would have complained. That was an unmitigated disaster. That's a program with a lot of proud heritage and a lot of money and a lot of buy-in from their community. And I know you had your daily delivery over at Go Power Cat about this earlier today. Jerome Tang, what will go into his decision, if there is a decision this offseason. Eric Bossy, who works over at 24/7 Sports, who is just incredible at covering the national college basketball scene. He had Jerome Tang on a list of potential candidates for the Louisville job. I will start with this position here. If you're Louisville, Fitz, I mean, you have to make that call, right? With what Jerome Tang has accomplished, with that personality, the energy he injected into the K-State program. I mean, if you're Louisville, you at least have to make a call, right?
Yeah, I see Mick Cronin at the top of the list now. Oh my gosh. Is that really where you want to go with this? And Scott Drew's not leaving Baylor. I don't think Jerome Tang's leaving Kansas State, but Louisville's got money. They've got boosters. They've got a program. Hey, here's the little catch-22 that I don't like about maybe Jerome Tang and Louisville talk. I think Jerome Tang's committed to coaching in the Big 12. He wants to be on the biggest stage possible. And he's got that here in Manhattan. But what if Louisville's already agreed once the ACC breaks up to come into the Big 12? Do they play that card with him? I don't think he's leaving. He loves it here. He loves the fans. He loves the student body. Yeah, he's had a blow up with the university president, but I think that's kind of calmed down a little bit. At the end of the day, I don't see him leaving. But my DD today was more about the process of decision making than what the decision will be. But still, I don't think he's going to go at the end of the day.
And that's my hope. I mean, I enjoy covering Jerome Tang. I enjoy his teams. I enjoy his personality and all that. And I hope he stays at Kansas State for a really long time. Do you feel like there is I guess it is lingering. I mean, we've been in season. We haven't gotten to get to the next stage of fallout from the Naquan Tomlin situation yet, I guess, Fitz. But do you feel like that situation from earlier in the year is going to possibly influence Jerome Tang, at least to some degree? And I know you can't fully speak for the guy, but if you had to make a guess.
Well, honestly, I haven't talked to him in months about that. I mean, since the situation was occurring, I haven't spoken to him about it. Basketball time, I don't want to distract him with any of that nonsense. But look, if you're in a job and you don't like your boss, or in this case, your boss's boss, which is even almost more irritating that your boss's boss is getting in your way, you probably leave. I mean, life's too short to, have a bad relationship and be uneasy about your, how that you're going to be micromanaged in your job. That's a concern, but I'm going to tip my cap to Gene Taylor. He kind of stepped up and he made sure, like, hey, you deal with me. I mean, I'm his boss. You're my boss. He took the bullets in that, and there were a lot, and I admire him for that. He stepped up and buffered himself in between that whole thing with Jerome Tang, and I think it might have helped keep him here. Because, again, what I just said, he's got a boss that's got his back, even against his boss. So I think that's really important to know.
Last few questions we've got here for Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for our Wildcat wrap-up on the shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk today. Do you feel, Fitz, like this coming off season, and we'll get to the roster needs and churn and all that coming up at a later date, hopefully a long time from now. But when you look ahead to this offseason, after what has been undeniably a disappointing year for this program, do you feel like it's the kind of thing that might hurt K-State, that was that a one-hit wonder back in 2023? Or do you think it's the kind of thing that is going to springboard Jerome Tang into maybe an even more aggressive version of his offseason self?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, look, Wildcat NIL has really stepped up in the past year. I think they'll be more able to help out than they were. I don't necessarily think they lost players because of the NIL, but now I think they're in an advantageous position with that. I think he just missed out on a few dudes. They thought they had Max Smith and they didn't, and then they thought Toussaint was coming and he didn't. And then, they got Quez Glover, and he's been injured all year. And then they lose Naquan Thomas. In many ways, it's been a worst-case scenario for K-State basketball this season. Last year was a best-case scenario. Marquise Noel turns into an amazing player. I mean, just really evolves into something special. Keontae Johnson not only comes back from his heart ailment, but never misses a beat. Is big, strong, and fast. And another guy stepped up. I think next year you're going to see him really focused on the needs of the team and a little more laser focused on specific things. I think not finding a veteran point guard really hurt them, and I know that'll be number one on the shopping list.
All right, Fitz, last thing. We thinking a 4 seed for the Midi Cats?
Yeah, I think they might have got that done. The bad news is the 4 seed will probably be the last 4 seed, meaning they'll be in the South Carolina bracket, which is less than ideal. It's like being in the I don't even know what year it'd be, 72 UCLA bracket in the NCAA tournament. You just don't want to be there because you're going to get beat. But, you play the games. K-State is a matchup issue for certain teams. Maybe that includes South Carolina. I don't know. But, yeah, I think they got enough done. And I think the committee will look at K-State's body of work and understand that the injury played a significant role and why they're looking at him for the 4 line instead of the 2 or 3 line.
I think you are right on with that, Fitz. Tim Fitzgerald is the publisher of GoPowerCat.com. Make sure you go check out GoPowerCat as part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Check out GoPowerCat on YouTube as well, and make sure you're following Fitz on Twitter at LifeOfFitz. He joins us every single Wednesday at this time for our Wildcat wrap-up. We appreciate it, Fitz. Enjoy the game coming up tonight and the rest of the Big 12 tournament. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, my friend.
That is Tim Fitzgerald, one of the best of the best when it comes to covering all things K-State sports. We've got one more timeout to get to, and we'll wrap up this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word next. Time to wrap up 580 Sports Talk with a quick final word. And the final word for me today is that, well, KU and K-State are entering the Big 12 tournament with not really any expectations. Obviously, they expect to win. They want to win. They hope to win. Obviously, those things. But if you're watching from a step back and you see this K-State team and think, well, if you've got to make it all the way to winning the Big 12 tournament with a bunch of teams who are objectively better than you just to make it to the big dance, it probably tells you about all you need to know about what this tournament will go like. Meanwhile, for KU, it was already going to be a struggle this tournament, but you lose Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson for the whole week. Yeah, not really many expectations or any expectations going into the conference tournament. We will have coverage of K-State basketball coming up here at the top of the hour. Spencer and Dan, of your coverage, they'll be live on YouTube after K-State and KU play tonight. We're back tomorrow with a full show. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. This has been 580 Sports Talk.